or as SpaceX puts it, rapid unscheduled disassemblies.
Rapid unscheduled disassemblies. When you're dealing with the biggest bullshitter in the world. Bro, it didn't explode. It had a rapid unscheduled disassembly.
So all eyes were on Test Launch 9 to see if the Starship could return to Earth in one piece.
As Musk left our interview to watch the launch, he said something that could summarize all of his enterprises. I can't guarantee success, but I can guarantee excitement.
In the end, Elon Musk's giant rocket spun out of control. It did not survive re-entry.
I'm leaving the government to focus on my companies. Boom! Ship immediately explodes. Oh my god. Cybertruck is the most deadly vehicle perhaps ever sold. It's more deadly than the very well-known deadly vehicle, the Ford Pinto. So you got Cybertrucks, like hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Cybertrucks that can't sell. You have Tesla sales absolutely imploding. You have Elon's ships blowing up in front of our faces. So he's got it rough, dog. He's got it rough at the moment. Things are falling apart quite quickly. Now, when they did this weird, like, goodbye meeting with Elon Musk in the White House with the media, of course, one of the reporters asked about, hey, there's this article which talks about how you do more drugs than maybe anybody in human history, and look at how he handles it. He flips out.
The president mentioned that you had to deal with all the slings and arrows during your time at Doge. There's this.
By the way, this is a Fox News guy. This is Peter Doocy. He's a Fox News guy, and he's asking the question.
I spent the number of times of January.
Ooh, really?
There is a New York Times report.
You spin the number of times?
As the number of days of January.
Oh, okay.
Got a Pulitzer Prize for false reporting on the Russiagate.
He literally won't even let Peter Doocy say what's in the article. He's like, don't bring it up. I'm not being defensive, but don't bring it up.
Is it the same organization? I gotta check my Pulitzer calendar. It is. So I think the judge just ruled against New York Times for their lies about the Russiagate hoax, and that they might have to give back that.
Look at how defensive and desperate he is. Don't say what's in the article. They did bad things. They wrote things. I did not. No, fake news. Fake news.
Surprise. That New York Times. Let's move on. Okay. Next question. I got one for President Trump.
Wow. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. Okay. Remember, the crux of the article was like, not only that there's already been about 300,000 deaths because of his cuts to USAID, which means people can't get their malaria medication, their HIV medication, their AIDS medication, all this stuff, which was absolutely necessary. But the crux of that piece was, on a daily basis, he's taking like, a pharmacy worth of drugs, 20 drugs, including a whole bunch of ketamine. His bladder is fucked up because of the ketamine, right? And so he's trying to swat away the idea that he's doing these drugs, right? Meanwhile, top video here is him at the inauguration, high off his ass. The other one is him in that same meeting at the White House, tripping balls, bro. Look at his face. Look at this.
Writing for the Attorney General to uphold the law and protect the profession and protect New Yorkers from harm.
He's high as fuck. What a little slimy weasel. What a little weasel.
Yep.
He refuses to just say, like, yeah, I do a bunch of substances, but, it helps me focus. And it's where I get a lot of my ideas from. And, it's part of my process. Who cares? He can't, the New York Times did bad things. They said bad fake news. That's fake news.
I wish I was talented enough to paint some pro bodybuilders.
Head falling all over the place, eyes rolling in the back of your head. Look at it.
Could I make the bodybuilders out of clouds?
The top and the bottom. Inauguration and
if
now.
so, then yes.
It looks like he's aged, even since just the inauguration, it looks like he's aged like 7 years. He looks horrible. He looks horrible. Looks like he's like fucking 68. Look at him. Oh my god. What a fucking fraud. What a con man. Now, by the way, I got a curveball to throw at you now, right? Because everything we're hearing to this point is like, okay, Elon's done. Elon's gone. He pissed off the big guy. But remember, we floated the theory early on that there's a financial arrangement between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, which makes it so you can't simply just like sever ties.
Yes, I
completely
would
and
say
tell them
I'm
to
a
go fuck
cloud
themselves,
expert.
right? Elon gave
Not
it
clown.
was over 270
Don't get
million.
it messed
I believe
up.
the exact number was $288 million to get Trump elected. $288 million. Now, in return for that, he got to illegally hack into the treasury, steal everybody's data, illegally cut whatever government programs he wanted to, destroy the regulatory state, etc. But Trump also got, as you know, from all these tech bros, they hooked him up with a scam crypto meme coin. And Trump made billions of dollars off that. So there was some sort of a financial arrangement. We'll give you the money to get elected. We'll make sure you get elected. That'll also keep you out of jail. We'll get you a crypto scam coin. You'll get billions of dollars more. And in return for that, you got to let us violate the Impoundment Control Act and usurp Congress's power of the purse and do whatever we want. And so guess what? Even after all this, yes, they're hiding Elon. They don't want Elon's fat, high as fuck face to be around anymore. But Wired reports Elon Musk will not be fully exiting Doge. In fact, federal workers from at least 6 agencies tell Wired that Doge-style work is escalating in their departments, and Trump himself said in a press
Oh my
conference
God!
today that Elon's
That was fucking ripped. Holy shit.
You shut the fuck up. You stop criticizing the president and his legislation. Go sit in
That's
the back.
scary.
But
Oh boy,
are we gonna
that
let
looks like
Doge
it hurts.
continue? Are you still going to illegally hack into government programs and cut them or eliminate them? Are you still going to be doing the dirty work that we also want you to do? Yeah, you're going to get to do that. And if it's not you, it's your little fucking minions who you installed in these places. They're going to get to do that. So Doge continues. Don't get it twisted. Doge continues. But at the same time, there is no doubt, Elon Musk's world is falling apart. All this guy wanted was to be beloved and adored by people. Now everybody despises him. It used to be liberals who would buy his, Tesla cars. Then he pissed off all the liberals in the country, but conservatives are not going to make up that difference. They're all buying Ford F-150s and Chevys.
Oh,
right?
no.
Silverado.
No, Robert. No ketamine
So-
for me.
You pissed off your base, right? And then your starships are exploding on a daily basis. But all you have is the government money that gets fed to you. You are a welfare queen. That's what you are. That's all you have.
Just Trader Joe's
Well,
soda.
maybe that's enough to continue, but you're trying to force him out of Tesla. They'll probably try to force him out of other companies that he's controlling because he's just that hated. But his demonic work will continue either with him in the background or with others who are doing that work for him. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now.
What you got to say, Adam?
Times now, I always get their sweat.
I'm sick of Trump voters trying to grill me on Biden's age and Biden's cognitive capacity when the current president of the United States is showing severe signs of decline and it's bleeding into his policy every single day. We are going to demonstrate his decline throughout this video, and to help me, I'm bringing in contributor Chris Mowry. The right-wing media ecosystem has been built up for decades with billions of dollars, and now we are trying to flip the script and punch back with facts, with relentless fact-checking, with pushback 24/7, and you can help us
Hello?
Make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe below, and check out Chris Mowry. The video to my right has been going very viral on the internet because it is a great way to show Donald Trump's very clear cognitive decline. This is something we've talked a lot about on this channel. I know a lot of you have been screaming about it for a long time, and I always say we've been screaming about Donald Trump's just general IQ for a long time. But in terms of cognitive decline, the mainstream media is finally starting to pick this up. You can hear the rumbles of people who may not pay attention to politics as much.
Corbin, what?
Looking at this guy and saying, what the hell is going on?
Also, yes, I do
He rambles
smoke.
for long periods of time. It's incoherent. He stumbles over his words. In the middle of the night, he's on True Social type of QAnon level conspiracy theories. And this isn't like you or I or somebody's uncle. This is the president of the United States, the leader of the free world. So we're going to react to this video together. It's a really, really good video. Before I go there, though, I want to read this comment really quickly from Michael.
Who are
Keep building your
you?
network, Adam. Chris
You're not
Says
Adam.
from an Internet Archive show. The only transcript appearing now is of Trump's inaugural address
Beep
on
beep
January
boop beep
20th.
beep boop
So the White House actually stopped providing
boop,
transcripts.
boop, 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 boop. Hate you,
I
Caroline.
think it's frankly ridiculous that anyone in this room would even suggest that President Trump is doing anything for his own benefit.
Scale is staggering.
Sorry.
President Trump and his family are making hundreds of millions, potentially
No, he's not
billions
doing
of
the
dollars
gosh
as
darn
Trump and
thing for his
administration take
benefit.
official actions that benefit contributors and investors. Just this week, we learned of pardons to tax cheats, including a man whose pardon was granted weeks after his mother attended a $1 million head fundraiser with the president. The Trump Media and Technology Group raised nearly $2.5 billion from 50 institutional investors whose identities have not been disclosed. The SEC dropped its lawsuit against the cryptocurrency firm Binance days after Binance began listing the cryptocurrency launched by World Liberty Financial, the crypto firm started by Trump's family.
You know, nothing puts the White House walls more at risk of catch-up than when George Stephanopoulos designates, a significant portion of his time discussing the sitting president. And he came out swinging against Trump and his family during the opening remarks of this week's broadcast.
This unprecedented money making by a sitting president and his family, summarized by critics like The Atlantic's David Frum.
I went to see my knee surgeon. He wanted to do total knee replacement. I have really severe bone and bone. He looked at
Get out of here.
Nothing like this has been attempted or even imagined in the history of the American presidency, he writes. Throw away the history books, discard feeble comparisons to scandals of the past. There is no analogy with any previous action by any past president. The brazenness of the self-enrichment resembles nothing seen in any earlier White House. This is American corruption on the scale of a post-Soviet republic or a post-colonial African dictatorship.
Stephanopoulos alleged that Trump and his family have exploited the highest office in the land to generate, quote, billions of dollars in deals. Going on to say, quote, the scale is staggering. The ABC reporter known for getting under Trump's skin took him and his administration to task in a flurry of rebukes directed at his policies, including several pardons to tax cheats, conveniently, who were seen cozying up to their fearless cult leader and kissing the ring before their family members were pardoned.
From billion-dollar real estate deals in the Middle East to a flashy crypto investor dinner and the pardoning of political supporters, concerns Donald Trump's second term is blurring the lines between the personal and political like never before, as Trump tapped into his presidential pardon powers this week.
Just congratulate your parents. And I hear they're terrific people. This should not have happened.
One trend seemed to emerge, the president absolving the convictions of at least a dozen people with political and financial connections to him, like last month's full and unconditional pardon of Florida nursing home executive Paul Walzak. Days after the 2024 election, Walzak pleaded guilty to withholding more than $10 million from his employees' paychecks.
That's not fraud.
Some of it on luxury items for himself.
Totally not
fraud.
fraud.
Walzak's mother has raised millions for Trump's campaigns and recently attended a $1 million a person fundraiser at Trump's Mar-a-Lago club, though it's unclear what, if anything, she donated to attend. Less than a month after that fundraiser, Walzak had his pardons.
These pardons are rather arbitrary, and they just seem to be granted to people who are friends or supporters of the president.
I'm sure that's just a coincidence, right? But the thing is, Stephanopoulos' gall and his unapologetic reporting here has to be commended for several reasons. I mean, there's Trump's war on free speech, for one, but most notably the fact that ABC had to issue an apology in the past as part of a $16 million settlement with the Republican president late last year after Stephanopoulos falsely stated that Trump had been, quote, found liable for rape while discussing Trump's
Mr.
defamation
Olympia
in the trial involving
Hadid.
author E. Jean Carroll. Trump, in fact, had been found liable for sexual abuse.
That example and others concerning for former Congressman Charlie Dent, a Republican and former chair of the House Ethics Committee. Have you seen more questionable behavior?
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Even some of the president's allies question.
I know this takes a lot of hard work and dedication, but this dude looks like he's literally gonna explode.
Department of Defense
What?
For future use as Air Force
Golly,
One.
I just
The president is exempt
I just
from
feel like
conflict
he's
of
just
interest statutes, but legal
uncomfortable
experts and
all the
Democrats
time.
charge the plane could
Maybe I'm
violate
wrong.
the Constitution's prohibition on federal officials taking gifts from foreign countries.
Donald Trump's acceptance of the luxury plane from a foreign monarch is basically the corruption that our founding fathers were seeking to prevent.
The White House says that's not the case because the plane is a gift between governments and will eventually be transferred to Trump's Presidential Library Foundation and would not be for his personal use after he leaves office. And critics also pointing to another venture that didn't exist in the first Trump term, an emerging family cryptocurrency empire. On full display at this gala last week, an event where the top 220 buyers of his personal crypto meme coin were given exclusive access
to his
Trump,
wiener,
standing next to a podium with the seal of the president. The White House saying that Trump was only there in a personal capacity on his own time.
And I'm just one of 220 people that are invited. And there's no media, there's no recording, there's no plus ones. It's just truly some of the most influential figures in crypto and policy, and of course, the man himself.
The top 25 meme coin investors even getting a tour of the White House, like Justin Sun, a Chinese crypto mogul who was previously under investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission for fraud. That probe halted by the Trump administration in February. Both Trump and the First Lady have a meme coin.
But all of this ties into
I just
a rather
hate
dire
that term.
weekend for Trump and his administration.
This makes my
considering
skin
many
crawl.
of his favorite propagandists were destroyed on national television across the board. I mean, they were
Meme
raped across the
coin,
coals. Take,
Jesus.
for instance,
What
Mike
the fuck
Johnson
is
tried to
happening?
defend the bill that, will skyrocket the deficit.
But let me read you something that you said back in 2021 about the CBO. This was in relation to a Democratic bill. You said the CBO has confirmed this bill adds nearly $400 billion to the deficit, contrary to the White House's claim that the bill is paid for. So do you only believe the CBO when a Democrat is president, Mr. Speaker?
No, this is very easy to explain. The CBO sometimes gets projections correct, but they're always off every single time when they project economic growth. They always underestimate the growth that will be brought about by tax cuts and reduction in regulations.
We showed at the top of this piece you talking about how you believe we're on the brink of getting many of these trade negotiations secure. Where are we exactly? When will we see an actual agreement? Will we see any this week?
I expected that we were going to probably see one perhaps as early as last week. And I think that one of the things that's happened is that the trade team has been focused 100% like a laser beam on the China matter to make sure that there are no supply disruptions because these licenses are coming a little slower than we would like. And so we've been focused like a laser beam on that last week. And the presidents we expect will discuss the matter this week. Once that thing's resolved, then we're going to take deals into the Oval that Jameson Greer and Howard Lutnick have negotiated.
But if they thought their work was cut out for them last week, well, this week they're going to have to defend their fearless cult leader sharing a post that claimed that Biden had died back in 2020 and it's been a body double.
If you have arthritis and wonder what food could be doing to your joints, watch this.
Believe that.
I get ash.
Ever since.
Hear me out,
The
guys.
Justice Department has simultaneously
It wasn't Biden that died in 2020. It was actually
enforcement.
Trump.
On Thursday, the SEC
Trump
dropped
is
a
the robot.
two-year lawsuit against Binance, the world's largest crypto
Think about
exchange, which federal regulators accused of mishandling customer money. The case was
Why would he
dropped
even
just
bring that
weeks
theory up?
after that Trump-connected crypto firm, World Liberty Financial, announced a $2 billion deal where United
And if you look at his track
Airlines
record,
Fund
everything
would
that he's
use the
saying he's
firm's
not
token
doing, he's
to
actually
invest
doing.
in
So
Binance, a transaction that could generate hundreds of
You
millions
never
of dollars for the Trump family. But the concerns of critics go far beyond the world of crypto. From First Lady Melania Trump's reported record-breaking $40 million deal for her new Amazon documentary to the multiple Trump family real estate deals in the Middle East, some of which closed in the weeks right before the president's swing through those very same countries. At least one prominent Trump ally expressing concern.
Oh, there's a brand new hotel going up in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, and another one going up in Doha, I think. And I'm like, did these just get done also with the deals that just happened over there, or was this earlier? You would probably know.
No, I don't know.
You don't? That stuff kind of worries me. You know, it
seems like corruption, yeah. That isn't turning some Trump family members away from their own ventures. ABC News has learned plans are now in the works for a new private club in Washington, D.C., co-founded by Donald Trump Jr. and Trump's crypto czar investor David Sachs. The club's official name, Executive Branch, intended as a haven for the Trump family and top MAGA allies.
We're creating something that didn't exist before in DC, which again is younger, hipper, Trump-aligned Republican
The initial price tag for membership, $500,000.
George, the White House points to the fact that President Trump's assets are now in a trust managed by his children and assert that the entire Trump family are following all applicable ethics rules. A White House spokesperson telling us, quote, everything President Trump does is to benefit the American people.
Love this video? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MidasTouch and help us blow past 1 million followers.
I have not seen this.
Today,
No, you motherfucker.
today,
The fuck?
we're going to start talking about Trump's global tariffs being blocked by an American federal judge.
The federal court has blocked his tariffs on China and other countries, ruling that the president had overstepped his authority under the law.
In April, the president declared a national emergency to impose his so-called reciprocal tariffs on goods from every country that trades with the U.S. without seeking approval from Congress.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day.
As markets roiled, Trump defiant.
I know what the hell I'm doing.
But overnight, the federal panel ruling that the law does
Wrong.
not authorize the president to use emergency powers to issue tariffs, and that his executive orders exceed any authority granted to the president. The judges appointed by Presidents Reagan, Obama, and Trump also blocking tariffs Trump imposed on China, Mexico, and Canada to combat fentanyl trafficking, because they do not deal with the threats described in the president's order. The Trump administration overnight quick to appeal, the White House rebuking the court.
Pooping.
What if you can create your own website by saying, this is what I want? With Wix, you can.
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Trump is a clone?
Let's talk
I'm
about
asking
AI
for your
combos.
opinion.
You can get any combos you want.
I'm just saying.
I think the court's coming after our big, beautiful boy that simply wanted to molest the money, and stopping his money molestations is really messed up. The judges that have played a role in blocking this so far as I understand, are Reagan judges, Obama judges, which is of course lame. Obviously Obama is a communist, but also Trump appointees. So it's not like these guys are all woke libtards, okay? Down to the Obama judge. So they're just saying enough is enough. Your money molestation must stop, and it's really messed up. I was thinking about this. As you guys know, I don't entertain conspiracy theories. I do like conspiracy theories. I like analyzing conspiracy theories, but I'm not like a big conspiracy theorist. Having said that, this has played out so perfectly that it almost feels like a psyop to make it seem like if there was ever an opportunity for real trade protectionism, if there was actually a real socialist in charge, that the court system and all of our legal processes will destroy that, because Donald Trump has gone through this in the most idiotic way possible, that it almost feels like we just wanted to make sure that the judicial process could just like eliminate any kind of initiative from the executive office in the future. Of course, while all this is happening, the Trump administration says it will appeal the tariff ruling. This is from yesterday. A reminder to watch this play out in courts and beware of the volatility that surrounds it. Also a reminder that rule of law in American court system as a balance is a huge reason investors flock to the U.S. If there's a perceived breakdown with this issue or others, it would mean a breakdown in confidence of inbound investment. An observation: for the past month or so, I've had CEOs and CIOs of major U.S. and international corporations and investment firms pull up lawsuits, including far outside of tariffs such as Harvard's, with the briefs saved handy on their cell phones. They're watching for fairness at the end of the day to see that the system holds up. I think a lot of people don't understand how important this is. As someone who grew up in Turkey, let me tell you, at the end of the day, you either need to have an incredibly cheap manufacturing base so that you can offer super profits to multinational corporations like China does, or you have to have an incredibly solid, transparent legal structure so that your investments are kept safe. At least there is some sort of legal restitution that you can get. America offers a court system and a functional, I guess, like judicial utopia in comparison to many other countries. The reason why I'm making this comparison with Turkey is because when I was at Bloomberg in Turkey, Bloomberg Habertürk in Turkey, this was one of the things that came up quite frequently when I think this was like the era of privatization for Erdogan. I mean, there's never not been an era of privatization for Erdogan. I remember vividly there was one meeting I went to with like MBA students. The most important thing that they were talking about is like, in order to bring in foreign capital into the country, there needs to be some kind of presence of parity and the presence of fairness, and that when things are done, when business and commerce is done in like very corrupt ways, bribery, or when the government can like seize assets or pick and choose winners in the marketplace aggressively, that actually causes investors to pull out, foreign capital to pull out of the country. If your investments are not protected by at least like some institutions that will at least be as fair as possible, you're going to have a harder time bringing in foreign capital into your country. And the same goes for the United States of America as well. The United States is basically like the one of the greatest examples of this. For the United States of America, we don't have a cheap nor robust manufacturing base. The only thing we have is the courts. The only thing we have is the institutions. So Trump is not only molesting the money directly, but he's also kind of molesting the process. But let's see.
Saying it is not for unelected judges to decide how to properly address a national emergency. Adding the administration is committed to using every lever of executive power to address this crisis and restore American greatness. For weeks, the president's on-again, off-again tariffs have caused whiplash on Wall Street, sparking major sell-offs when he issues new threats and rallies when he pulls them back. In the Oval Office yesterday, Trump lashing out when a reporter asked about a new term for his turnarounds.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response?
I'm not kidding when I say this. This, I think, originally came from the Financial Times reporting, and Financial Times has been kind of carrying the entirety of Legacy Publishers the West on its back for the past year and a half. I kind of feel like the taco shit is dangerous, but I would be lying to you if I were to tell you I'm not excited to see where this goes. I'd be lying to you. And I kind of feel like a lot of people...
I'm sorry, I'm just catching up with all of the comments that are happening.
These systems also want to see how badly Trump can blow this shit up. I'm scared and cautious. I think that it's not good if we have a Great Depression. But also at the same time, don't you kind of want to see where he will take this a little bit? At least for me, there is this morbid curiosity, and I want to see, like, how badly could he molest the money? How badly could he f the bag up? I think there are a lot of people who, like, deep down inside, there's a lot of people who are like, I kind of want to see where this goes. Who do you think? Who do you think is more freaked out? I know everyone is saying that's because you are a rich man, you are privileged, you won't end up in the streets. But, like, chatters. I know. That's why I'm saying I'm cautious. That's why I said it's a morbid curiosity. Like, you know it's bad. It's like the call of the void. Like, people are so angry, so resentful, and so interested in change that they're like, change in any direction is good. The reason why I'm describing this to you is because I need you to understand what the anger, like what the motives are for people who like Donald Trump, like where this comes from. Like, what are the different factors that contribute to his popularity? Because I believe that if we actually fully comprehend what those factors are, we can at least use it to our advantage and hopefully get these people on board and redirect them towards more productive points of anger and resentment. Anyway, let's continue.
I kick out.
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that
I
right?
kick
Chicken
out?
I've never heard that.
I
6 months
wish.
ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive, and you ask...
He's so mad. He's like, this is the most disgusting question anyone has ever asked. No one has ever asked such a nasty question.
It's a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation.
The court has now given the administration 10 days to halt these tariffs, and the Justice Department is now appealing, setting up a legal fight that could soon reach the Supreme Court.
From the investor side, there's been a fascinating trend that's gone on, which is I think a lot of investors are looking past tariffs. You know, there is a trade acronym going around Wall Street, and it must be driving the president crazy. It's called the taco trade. Have you heard of it?
No.
Nope.
Trump always chickens out.
Oh.
And this actual acronym is the position that many traders are taking. They are saying he will roll back these tariffs when the bond market moves again.
I don't know.
Someone's.
It's like, should we?
This is Pod 5, the first fully immersive sleep system. Intelligent, adaptive, effortless. It doesn't replace your bed, it transforms.
I don't like the sound of that.
Pod
fully immersive.
Should we? I go back and forth on this. On the one hand, I think the taco stuff is very funny and very good. On the other hand, I'm like, should we be playing with fire and antagonizing the beast like this?
Yeah.
Also, on the other hand, I'm thinking to myself, why don't we use this to other stuff? You know, it's Taco Thursday, baby. Just weaponize the taco stuff, which clearly is working, on Israel. Just be like, dude, I have it on good authority. Benjamin Netanyahu thinks you're a bitch. I'm just saying, maybe we could use the weaponize the taco thing for something more productive, right? I'm out of options, man. I'm out of options. Do you have a better alternative? I don't think so. I want taco to be Trump always commits openly. Yeah. Not Trump always chickens out. This is the libbest you've ever been, maybe? Because I'm desperate, man. I'm desperate, okay? I'm desperate. What are you talking about? It's literally the same reason why I was like, look, man, I don't really care. Obviously, it's a bribe that Qatar gave Donald Trump a $400 million plane. Like, it's not, that's a bribe. Like, everybody knows that's a bribe. This is just how he operates. If that bribe moved him even marginally in the direction of a ceasefire in Gaza, like I don't care. It's awesome. I'll fly to Qatar right now, you know, and kiss the feet.
We're in a situation now, big picture here is IEPA. We were using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. There's no question that there's an economic emergency with respect to both uses that we had. One is we are in a world where China has killed over 1 million Americans with fentanyl poison. And we took this step to stop that. We will continue to press on that. At the same time, we invoked that rule to stop what has been 20 million illegal aliens streaming into our country, driving down wages, taking jobs away. That's an economic emergency. On top of that, the world continues to steal about $1 trillion a year as measured by the trade deficit. And that's an economic emergency because it's transferring our wealth abroad. So we think we have a strong case. Yes, we will immediately appeal and try to stay the ruling.
I want to close my eyes for a moment and imagine, like, I want to put myself in the shoes of a guy who hears Peter Navarro say this and then believes it. When virtually everything that you can observe is going against everything that these guys say. Like, I want to know what kind of, like, who is the type of dude that watches and goes, hell yeah, they're doing so many deals, dude. They're doing so many deals. America's on the up and up, dude. Trump brought in $100 gorillion, dude. And you're like, Dad, that's not a real number. You just heard that on television. Like, what? Who told you this? What is the purpose of all of this? They just lie about everything, like, all the time with great frequency. And I guess people kind of believe it, you know, people just believe it. They want to believe it, so they believe it.
Interestingly enough, I was scheduled to come on the program today to talk about the bond market and the big beautiful tax bill, but there is a bridge to.
Oh, I love that they're calling it the big beautiful tax bill. Again, Another point for the complete devolution, the complete regression of American political discourse, American politics in general. It's signaled to the dumbest guy you know. Everything that this administration is doing is signaling to the stupidest person you've ever encountered. Incredible, fantastic, phenomenal.
And a lot of the hysteria around the big, beautiful tax bill centers on the Congressional Budget Office scoring that bill in a way which says there's going to be a $3.7 trillion addition to America's national debt over the next 10 years. And so, of course, you got to finance that, and that drives interest rates.
One might ask, why is this bill supposed to add to the deficit? I don't understand. I thought Republicans cared about the deficit. I thought they were deficit hawks. Oh, that's right. It's because it's a massive wealth transfer once again. It is supposed to offer ginormous tax cuts to the wealthiest in American society. And in order to make up for the trillions of dollars in tax cuts, you have to take money away from someone. And that money that they're taking away from people is the working poor. Many of them are in the Trump base, as a matter of fact. Many of them who rely on Medicare, as a matter of fact. 8 to 12 million kicked off of Medicare coverage, SNAP benefits taken away from tens of millions of people with children. Fantastic stuff overall for the working poor. Get back to work and enslave yourselves. You're able-bodied enough is the attitude. Very cool to do this, I think, in America. Big, beautiful bill. Gonna be awesome. Can't wait to win and win harder and win more. I'm just so tired of winning.
We're gonna win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more. We're going to win so much. I love you. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, Medicaid, not Medicare. Did I say Medicare?
People need to wrap their heads around the fact that every day here in America, people die because communist China puts 50-gallon barrel.
Here's the 2-minute story of how I built a $10 million a year online business and how my mistakes and successes can help
Shut the fuck up!
50-gallon drums full of these chemicals that come over to the Mexican cartels and then are made not just into fentanyl. They use the fentanyl to spike heroin, to spike methamphetamines, to spike ecstasy, and they're even putting it in prescription drugs like Xanax and Valium. And people are dying. It's been over 1 million people, 1 million Americans. And it's an economic emergency because a lot of those people are prime age working force here in America. So this kind of court ruling, the judge, I mean, look, the leak.
Does anyone believe that the Trump tariff stuff is for fentanyl? I feel like obviously they wanted to do this in a way where they could declare a national emergency so that they could have even more power. Because normally, a lot of the tariff stuff, especially if it's directional, especially if it's like industry specific, is usually left up to the executive authority. Congress has historically allowed the executive office, the White House, to make decisions on tariffs. But Donald Trump knows, or at least Donald Trump's advisors know, that he can't make these broad declarative, and not industry-wide, but broad declarative tariffs on every single country in the way that he has. Obviously, as the courts also have ruled, you do not have that kind of power. And therefore, he had to find, like, I guess his advisor to find a devious way to give him this awesome power, this extraordinary power, right? And part of that comes from declaring things a national emergency. If you declare something a national emergency, then the White House has more power than it did prior. So in order to declare something a national emergency, or in order to use the tariffs as a weapon to wield, he basically said, like, oh, this is the fentanyl. It's because of fentanyl. Fentanyl's coming over the border, and that is a national emergency. Too many people are dying because of fentanyl. And then he turned around and said, that's why we're tariffing in Canada. And I feel like when he just did it on Mexico, it was one thing, where most people are like, yeah, it is coming from the southern border, even though, ironically, a lot of the tariffs are, a lot of the fentanyl is coming from China by way of regular points of entry, okay, through, normal routes of commerce, okay? But having said that, when he was like, oh, that's why we're actually putting a tariff on Canada because of fentanyl, everyone was like, what the do you mean? None of it makes sense. It doesn't, like, I don't know why he's even, like, who believes this? Who's like, yeah, this is actually a great way to deal with the fentanyl crisis by adding tariffs, by basically slapping a sales tax, a broad sales tax on all consumer goods. We are combating fentanyl.
But if the court said, if the ruling said, Peter, and we've been talking about this, page
Yeah.
34, 35, they say, basically, you're in your right if you use section 122. Why didn't you guys do that from the beginning?
Well, section 122 only gives you 150 days. So there's your answer right there.
So are you,
So
section 122, if
you
you
can
use
use
this
that-
now for
you can
150
use
days,
that
would it
as
be a
a-
bridge to 301 or a bridge to 232? What are you thinking more long term?
You can be the strategist on that, but those are the kinds of thoughts. And look, if anybody thinks this caught the...
You guys are throwing up question marks, but again, the president has, by Congress and through precedent, broad powers on directing trade. So the question that they're asking Peter Navarro here is not the wrong one, where it's like, you already have these powers. Why wouldn't you use those powers? Why are you instead trying to do this unconstitutional way of, or this illegal way of applying these broad tariffs across the board? I guess it's maybe a trial balloon. I really don't have a good answer for it. The Heritage Foundation's project that has been around and been implemented slowly but surely for almost 40 years. This is not new. It's not new at all. Part of the reason why the Trump administration is doing this stuff is because they think this is a great way to expand on the power of the executive office by simply calling something a national emergency and then behaving this way and then testing out the courts to ensure that they have this kind of broad sweeping power. I think that's the reason why they're doing it, because once again, if you think that the Trump administration doesn't have advisors like Heritage Foundation guys that aren't constantly looking at different ways in which to increase the power of the executive office, you're wrong. The one thing that I believe they're too incompetent to do is just like set up a false flag to greatly push for, I don't know, some kind of new war or additional emergency powers that allow them to start deporting American citizens, stuff like that. I think they're too incompetent to set up like a psyop or a false flag. I don't want to make predictions on that though. Who knows? But right now, when I look at like the way that they operate, it's pretty basic. They're kind of blundering into a lot of these positions. They're trying to just basically hip check their way into this agenda. One of the greatest examples of this was what happened with Mahmoud Khalil. Like they are basically working with groups like Beitar. They could have started this process by going after like documented citizens that weren't legal permanent residents, that had said a lot of violent stuff, you know what I mean? Even though it's still constitutionally protected, they could have at least like massaged this in a way where the public sentiment would not be broadly against this kind of anti-1A, anti-First Amendment initiative. But they didn't do that. They just worked with Beitar and thought that Mahmoud Khalil, for example, was on a student visa. They didn't even realize he had a green card and an American wife with a child on the way. Like, these are major mistakes that you're making that are actually very consequential when you're trying to work within the confines of the pre-existing system and moving that in the direction of tyrannical fascism. That kind of uncertainty and that kind of incompetence is basically the only silver lining in this administration that hopefully gives me a little bit more courage and a little bit more confidence that they might not be able to implement all of their desires, because I certainly do not believe in the Democratic Party as far as like resisting against these initiatives that the Trump administration is implementing.
Spectrum, we know life moves fast. Keep up with the speed, reliability, and security of Spectrum Internet. Celebrate virtual gaming victories and stay connected
virtual
anywhere with
gaming
Spectrum Mobile.
victories.
Switch to
Look at that old man going nuts. What do I want to listen to? When is this from?
And I really like military.
No, this is old.
So, and all of my friends are going into it right now.
Nah.
My body. So I love that I don't need to take any pills for Relief Band to just work its magic.
No. I don't want that.
Losing because it's happening all over the place, in court, with his own supporters, and with his closest allies in the Senate. And the latest domino to fall is Lindsey Graham, who is flipping on Donald Trump, stabbing him in the back on one of the issues that he has failed to deliver on, and it is driving Trump crazy. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, I don't want to give Lindsey Graham too much credit for the way that he is now speaking out against Donald Trump's agenda. So before we get into what is driving Trump so crazy, I want to hear from Lindsey Graham's newest competitor in his Senate re-election race. That's Dr. Annie Andrews right here.
Talk to me about your decision and motivation to run.
Absolutely. Well, I'm not a career politician. I'm a mom and a pediatrician, and I've worked for nearly 2 decades in children's hospitals. And what I saw over those 2 decades is what drove me to get involved in politics in the first place. Because when you go to work at a children's hospital, you take care of kids who don't know where their next meal is coming from, kids whose parents can't afford their prescription drugs, children who are in the throes of a mental health crisis and can't access mental health resources, and children who have been shot. And it became abundantly clear to me that broken policies coming out of Washington, D.C. from career corrupt politicians like Lindsey Graham were harming our kids long before they ever got to the hospital. Because folks like Lindsey Graham, career politicians like Lindsey Graham, are willing to do anything or say anything, even if it harms our children, just so they can hold on to power. And I can't sit on the sidelines and just let him get reelected. He's been in the Senate for 22 years, and over the course of that time period, he has changed his position on nearly every issue. He's willing to take food off our kids' plates, gut our nation's Medicaid program, and watch prices spiral out of control just so he can deliver tax cuts to billionaires. And I know that you can't win if you don't run, and I'm ready to send Lindsey home.
I just had to start with that because we can't be giving too much credit to Lindsey Graham. Let's
send his ass fucking home.
We will acknowledge when he is saying something that he is agreeing with us on, and that is that Vladimir Putin has to be stopped, and Donald Trump isn't doing nearly enough or really anything at all to end this war in Ukraine. The war he promised he would end before he was even sworn in, and the opposite has happened, and it's very clear why. Donald Trump is doing anything he possibly can to defend Putin. And of course, when he's questioned about it, he folds. And that's why Lindsey Graham is speaking out. Before we get to that, I want to hear what Donald Trump thinks about sanctions on Putin.
Do you look at this and see Putin as the good guy or the bad guy?
So I've known him very well, and I went through a lot of things with him because Russia was, the Russia hoax turned out to be a total hoax. New York Times, they got a Pulitzer Prize. They have to give back the Pulitzer Prize. That's my lawsuit, and they're doing very poorly in that lawsuit. But they wrote stories about how it was true and it was false, and a lot of Washington Post also. I have gotten to see things that I was very surprised at. Rockets being shot into cities like Kiev during a negotiation that I felt was maybe very close to ending. We were going to solve a problem, and then all of a sudden rockets got shot into a couple of cities and people died. I saw things that I was surprised at.
What stopped you from imposing new sanctions on Russia?
Only the fact that if I think I'm close to getting a deal, I don't want to screw it up by doing that. Let me tell you, I'm a lot tougher than the people you're talking about, but you have to know when to use that. If I think it's going to hurt a deal, this isn't my war. This is Biden's war, Zelensky's war, and Putin's war. This isn't Trump's war. I'm only here for one thing, to see if I can end it.
To steal money from Americans. That's the only reason why I'm here.
Not sure if you saw the news, but Fox News is claiming President Trump is declining in the polls. President Trump responded.
I forgot about Newsmax.
Well, from those two clips, we can very clearly tell what we've known throughout Donald Trump's entire political career, that he's just Putin's puppet, standing up for him, doing his dirty work, and promising, oh, Vlad, if you continue to bat your eyelashes at me, I'll protect you at all costs. But some Republicans, a lot of Republicans, and Republicans led by Lindsey Graham in the Senate, have just had enough. And we can see that as Lindsey flips on Trump's policy in this article right here. Lindsey Graham splits from Trump over Putin in Ukraine. Lindsey Graham threatened to go over Donald Trump's head to end the war in Ukraine. While the Trump administration extends its long leash on Russia, Republicans are running out of rope for dealing with the White House. In reaction to a Wall Street Journal editorial note demanding change in America's negotiating strategy, Senator Lindsey Graham said that the Senate is prepared to do what the president has not and slap severe sanctions on Moscow. I have coordinated with the White House on the Russia sanctions bill since its inception, Graham penned Tuesday. The bill would put Russia on a trade island, slapping 500% tariffs on any country that buys Moscow's energy products. The consequences of its barbaric invasion must be made real to those that prop it up. If China or India stopped buying cheap oil, Mr. Putin's war machine would grind to a halt. The sanctions bill has 82 co-sponsors, he continued. As Senator John Thune said last week, if Mr. Putin continues to play games, the Senate will act. I'm hoping for the best, but when it comes to the thug in Moscow, we should now prepare for more of the same. Graham further claimed that Ukraine has been a ready and willing negotiating partner, unlike Russia, and that the Senate would know which course to take once Putin provided a term sheet outlining the requirements for a ceasefire. But since Donald Trump has taken office, the White House has repeatedly bent to the Kremlin demands that prior administrations would have interpreted as outrageous requests. Donald Trump has claimed that Russia has offered major concessions towards a possible peace deal, although the concessions have included staking a Russian flag in Crimea, a deal that would effectively reward Russia for falling short of conquering the entire country. Senior officials in the Trump administration, including the president himself, have verbally recognized Crimea as part of Russia, a remarkable reversal of long-standing U.S. policy that made Kremlin propagandists on state-sponsored television laugh at the downfall of American power. Graham isn't the only senator going on the offensive, though, against the Trump administration when it comes to Putin. As we saw on Memorial Day, Senator Chuck Grassley practically begged the president to do something about the situation in Ukraine. So Donald Trump is clearly being humiliated by Putin every single day, and now one of his closest allies in Lindsey Graham is even calling him out, going around him, going above his head, and trying to make a deal without Donald Trump, knowing how weak and feeble he is. Well, Donald Trump clearly doesn't like this, and he's been posting like it lately, and we can see that right here. Posts like this from Donald Trump, what Vladimir Putin doesn't realize is that if it weren't for me, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia, and I mean really bad. He's playing with fire, only confirm what Lindsey Graham is saying. Donald Trump is just giving away the game here. He's just making it really, really clear that the only reason that we haven't seen a peace deal is because of Donald Trump. Again, I don't want to give Lindsey Graham too much credit here because the man has been silent this whole time. And if he really had some courage, he'd be speaking up on some other issues. But we do have to point out how important it is that we are making progress right now, even if it's at the direction of Lindsey Graham. But Donald Trump is saying the same thing as Lindsey Graham, that Trump is the reason that we are giving the concessions, not Putin. And it's because of how cowardly everyone, especially Donald Trump, is right now. The Republican caucus, if they actually claim to care about the values that they do in America's standing in the world, would of course be standing up to Donald Trump's cowardly behavior. But they are not. They are often and too often silent. And of course, we saw Jasmine Crockett call that out in a clip that I always return to because I think it is so important. And I want to take a look at it right here.
And saying, no, Trump did not win the election in 2020. That is absolutely factual. And unfortunately, because some people got all riled up because they believed the lies. They ended up getting locked up because they decided that they were going to believe the lies. They ended up at the Capitol on January 6th, and they were trying to tear this thing apart because they felt like their country was falling apart in front of their eyes because for whatever reason, there were people in power that were peddling a lie about the election. We also know, and some of y'all may still say that COVID was a hoax. COVID wasn't a hoax. Tell that to the over 1 million people that died under Donald Trump's first watch. It wasn't a hoax. So no, I do believe that it was okay. In fact, I do believe that it was ethically right for social media to check people because you had people that didn't know anything about science and decided that they were going to put out whatever lies or propaganda or conspiracy theories they wanted to, and people died. At some point in time, we have to evaluate what is factual, and I know that facts hurt y'all, and I just wish we could get on the same page, but we do know during the presidential election that the president would not go and participate in anything if fact-checking was going to be a part of it, because he didn't want to be fact-checked. We know that the vice president got upset in his vice presidential debate when he was fact-checked. It used to be a time in this country that we as members of Congress or elected officials thought that it was okay to just tell the truth. Instead, we're pushing conspiracy theories, and some of them are killing people. It's the same thing that we have coming out of Doge. It's the reason that people are dying. It's the reason that farmers are losing their farms, because we continue to peddle conspiracy theories. It is time for us to say, Mr. President, guess what? Russia invaded Ukraine. Can we at least agree on that one? Facts matter. Yo, this is literally potentially putting us into an international crisis. We may be heading towards the next world war because we have a president that wants to pal around with Putin and wants to do everything to make him feel good, including lying about who invaded who. Mr. Chair, I got a minute left, but I really want to yield to any of my colleagues and ask them if they will say today, very basically, that when it came down to the war in Ukraine, that it was not Ukraine that invaded Russia, it was the other way around. Is there anybody in here that has enough courage to say that Russia invaded Ukraine?
You can have my time.
And this is yet the problem.
History will not be kind to these Republicans, and neither should we. They have consistently showed us that they don't actually care about anything that they claim to. What Republicans are always so caught up in, though, is lecturing us. There's this idea that has been presented by the right that somehow it's liberals who want to lecture you and talk down to you, and they just do it because it makes them feel good, right? That's the picture of the left that they want to paint, that we don't actually back up our values. But that's true of Republicans. These are people who wave their flags, that carry their pocket constitutions, they talk about freedom, but when a democracy is fighting back against Putin, when people are fighting to maintain their sovereign nation, they do nothing, they sit silent. That's cowardly. You're not standing for anything if you just fall in line with Putin, and if you just fall in line with Donald Trump, as he's puppeted around as the president of the United States. How embarrassing is that? Almost more than anything, embarrassing on the global stage. Have some respect. I thought you guys pretended to be tough. Where's the macho masculine energy? Is it only for attacking trans kids? Is that it? Well, it seems like it is for Republicans, so we're going to call it out every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.
Instant relief for snorers in 2025. Hey Joe, check out this sweet move. Ride the wall? All right.
Paul, you look so different from the last time I saw you.
No! I thought you were my friend, Joe. Peach don't play. Punk. Nintendo Switch 2. Ukraine's massive drone attack deep inside of Russia that destroyed nuclear bombers just exposed how vulnerable Putin is. We've got big updates on the Boulder, Colorado fire attack. But Trump is promoting that Biden is actually dead and was replaced by a robot. And the really dumb problem is just getting worse. All that and much much more on today's brand new.
It's not funny, but it
daily
is.
dive into the news. But first, a quick announcement that over at beautifulbastard.com, I just put out a new drop for you. It's a sweet little 3-piece for my fellow emotionally exhausted beautiful bastards out there. Bite the hand that oppresses you. I'm very normal and cool and chill all the time, and I identify as being a beacon of light in a dark world. All available at beautifulbastard.com right now. It's the best place to wear your feelings and support the show. But with that said, a lot we have to talk about today, starting with this. Liddy Dunn is blowing up on social media right now and popping up in news headlines because she just did this Sports Illustrated swimsuit runway walk where she did a split in this itty-bitty bikini, but we need to talk about her today for a much more concerning reason. And that is that Liddy Dunn has people stalking her every time she goes to an airport. Right? And for those unfamiliar with her, she's a massive influencer. She's a former college gymnast. And unfortunately, the harassment that she's dealing with is a major problem for tons of female athletes.
I fear that I'm being stalked and I don't know what to do. It's got to the point every single time I go to the airport, there's a group of at least 10 middle-aged men waiting for me and they harass me. It's these men that
I
want
bet
my
they're all
autograph.
cis
They
white
have, like, snap
males.
40 pictures of me or my magazines, and they will run after me down the TSA pre-check line and yell at me if I don't give them my autograph. It's insane. But they will yell at me and like make a scene, and the people around me are scared.
With Dunn then emphasizing that no matter where she is, if she's traveling for work or a personal family vacation, it happens just the same. You know, it appears that it's taking a toll on her, with her, for example, sharing a clip of her crying after she landed from a red-eye flight and was harassed at baggage claim. With her also telling NBC News that these people are able to know private flight information. It's scary because they simply don't take no for an answer. You know, in her video, she notes that she is not alone here.
And the worst part is it's not only me. Like, I remember Gabby Thomas made a video about this, and it needs to stop because it's scary for girls. It's weird.
Right, and Gabby Thomas, she's an Olympic track star, a gold medalist, and earlier this year she posted a very similar video.
At this point, every time I travel, I'm afraid that these men, it's 3 to 6 of them, middle-aged, are going to show up and harass me. And it doesn't matter what city. They've come when I was traveling to and from Chicago. They've come when I'm traveling to and from Miami. And they have my flight information. And they show up either at the front door of the airport, at the correct concourse, or they show up at my gate, which means they have flight tickets and they get past security and all that.
Gabby then posting footage of the man who had been following her in Chicago, and at the time you saw tons of other female athletes like Sumi Lee, Coco Gauff, and Simone Biles all commenting on Gabby's post saying they have dealt with the same thing. You know, with looking into this, it is not an exclusively female problem, but it is a heavily female problem. Or with reports noting things like during the Tokyo Olympics, 87% of online abuse targeted women athletes. And on that note, you've had Gabby saying a big part of the problem is that people feel entitled to accessing athletes as a whole, but especially women. With that saying, a lot of the time when we don't grant them access, they can become hostile and sometimes start to harass. And so, you know, unfortunately, the kind of main headline to this story is same shit, different day. And I mean that both for female athletes in general, though there is a much bigger spotlight as people have been paying more and more attention to female sports. But also, I mean, for Dunn herself. Back in December of 2021, she had a stalker that threatened to shoot up her school. You know, as far as what happens from here, we'll have to wait to see. But then, next up, in just massive news, a man in Boulder, Colorado with a makeshift flamethrower reportedly yelled "Free Palestine" and threw Molotov cocktails at a group that was gathered to raise attention for hostages captured by Hamas in 2023. Right, and so we have to talk about this, especially because it happened just a week after you had a guy yelling "Free Palestine" shooting 2 Israeli embassy staffers outside of a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C. In this case, though, no one was killed, though 8 people were hospitalized with injuries ranging from minor to serious, one of which was reportedly a survivor of the Holocaus. And so with all that, as far as we know right now, it reportedly happened near the end of a weekly event that was organized by a group by the name of Run for Their Lives, which, you know, as I said, is a group dedicated to drawing attention to the hostages still in Gaza, of which there might be about 21 still alive. With police saying they started getting calls around 1:26 p.m. local time about a man with a weapon and people being set on fire. And then, after the initial attack, the suspect reportedly went behind some bushes and then re-emerged and threw a Molotov cocktail, but then apparently accidentally caught himself on fire as he threw it, with him then taking off his shirt and what appeared to be a bulletproof vest before the police arrived. And so in images and video that are circulating online, you can seemingly see the shirtless suspect holding what appears to be a Molotov cocktail. Right? And that is, you can also see a woman on the ground who appears injured and people surrounding her and a man pouring water on her body. With there then finally being footage of the police rushing to the scene and arresting this guy. A guy that the authorities have since said they believe acted alone. With police saying they've since discovered 14 unlit Molotov cocktails and a backpack weed sprayer filled with gasoline as well as xylene, which is a colorless and highly flammable substance. You also have the FBI saying that the man confessed to the attack after being taken into custody, and he told investigators that he wanted to kill all Zionist people and that he would do it again. And then with that, he actually said that he'd been planning to to conduct the attack for a year, but he was waiting for his daughter to graduate. So then with all that, you have the man now facing both federal hate crime as well as multiple state felony charges. With Attorney General Pam Bondi announcing the hate crime charge and adding, this vile anti-Semitic violence comes just weeks after the horrific murder of 2 young Jewish Americans in Washington, D.C. We will never tolerate this kind of hatred. We refuse to accept a world in which Jewish Americans are targeted for who they are and what they believe. Right? And of course, that's the same kind of sentiment that we've seen across the political spectrum. With us seeing, for instance, AOC writing, I am horrified by last night's horrific attack in Boulder. My heart is with the victims and our Jewish communities across the country. Anti-Semitism is on the rise here at home, and we have a moral responsibility to confront and stop it everywhere it exists. Right? And then, as far as those state charges I mentioned, you had the man reportedly being booked on 1 count of attempted murder, 1 count of first-degree assault, 1 count of causing serious injury to an at-risk adult or someone over 70, and 1 count of using explosives or incendiary devices. So then also with this, I'll say that there are reports that he's been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, but since no one has died according to the authorities, we might expect to see those drop. It is, unless 1, something changes, or 2, there's just something we don't know about publicly. And that, as far as what we know, or what we will know soon, you have the authorities saying that this is being investigated, and it's being investigated as terrorism. With the seeing FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino saying in a post on X, this act of terror is being investigated as an act of ideologically motivated violence based on the early information, the evidence, and witness accounts. We will speak clearly on these incidents when the facts warrant it. Right, as far as who this guy is, he's reportedly 45 years old and an Egyptian national, with then DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin claiming he is illegally in our country and saying that he entered the country in August of 2022 on a non-immigrant visa that expired in February of 2023. They're then noting that he filed for asylum in September of 2022, which is a month after his arrival. And there you have experts saying that U.S. law does provide arriving asylum seekers the right to remain in the United States while their claim for protection is pending. With the USCIS noting that individuals are generally eligible to apply for employment authorization when their asylum application has been pending for
Where? There we go.
EMF does, it starts to increase the amount of high beta and gamma that your brain's generating.
In the aftermath of the 2024 election, America is even more divided than before. Half the country fears the end of democracy, and the other half welcomes it. As America inches toward the brink of authoritarian rule, now more than ever, we must force ourselves to have the necessary conversation.
Welcome to the Necessary Conversation. I'm Chad Colchin. With me is my mom and dad. Oh God, Mom, you got a flag there. Is that for Memorial Day?
I'm trying to place it so we can all see it. There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
I guess we'll get into why you're holding that flag momentarily. My sister joins us this week. Welcome back.
Hello. Hello.
What?
Hi. Hi.
Are you okay? Where were you? What'd you do?
I went to Boston to help one of my former employees. She graduated from Boston University, and we had to pack her up and get her ready to move to New York City.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Was it successful? How are you doing? What's going on?
Yeah, it was a long trip with, like, you know, packing somebody's entire fucking existence.
Yep.
And, like, getting her ready to move to another city was a lot. It was a lot. She needed help, so we went and helped her.
Good. Mom and Dad, how are you doing?
It's nice.
What?
We're doing fine. We're here. Happy Memorial Day. That's why I have my flag. You want me to talk about it
Starting
now?
off the bang. Yeah, Mommy, do you have a ditty?
Did you guys know that it's Memorial Day weekend?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Or care? Chad? Haley?
It doesn't affect me much. I don't really like holidays.
Yeah, I don't know. We're not dear open at the God. bakery ever on Mondays.
I'm working on Monday.
Me too. Okay, Memorial Day is a federal holiday in the United States that honors the military personnel who have died while saving your asses and serving our country. This is the reason that you have freedom in the United States. And it's for all the soldiers, men and women who have lost their lives for you, me and Dad. That's what Memorial Day is, and it's Monday. But you guys don't celebrate it, right?
I mean, no, I'm not for war or military. It's tragic, anybody who's lost their life in any capacity, let alone in waging wars for the ultra-rich to maintain control over human society.
But you like your freedom, right?
Of course.
You like running your mouth.
I
You
love
like your
running my mouth.
freedom.
I
That's
like running
why-
my mouth.
that's
By the
why
way,
we
like
have
you guys
freedom.
don't run your mouths.
That's why we have
Right.
freedoms.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we contributed to it. You didn't.
And
what?
if you guys don't want to, we have,
What? We
What's
contributed
going on
to
over
your
there?
freedom. You didn't.
I don't know. We have family members that did serve, but they didn't lose their lives while service. My father served, Dad's father served, our uncles.
Dad himself.
But like I said, they didn't lose their lives. So I would like to honor the 13 at Abbey Gate that did lose their lives during the Biden-Harris administration that pulled out of Afghanistan in the worst history of the United States ever.
In the worst history of the United States. Worse than the Civil
I mean,
War.
in the whole administration of any president that has ever served, the way he
Worse than
pulled
the
out of
Civil War.
Afghanistan.
That's worse than the Civil War in your mind.
Yes, it is. Yeah, the way he did it. Yes, it is.
Okay. Woo. All right. Well, we are starting off the bang then, I guess. All right. Do you have any other ditties?
Have you
I was
guys
just
ever
gonna
been to
tell
Washington?
you-
Have you guys ever been to DC
Dad has.
and like seen
I've
all the
been to
memorials and
DC
shit?
probably more than you
I think-
have, honey bun.
Okay, I was gonna say, I think that you would enjoy it. I think
No,
that you would
you're
really
wrong.
enjoy DC.
There was
Dad
nothing
doesn't
but
enjoy anything
maggots
anymore.
sitting around saving space so they could play softball at 5 o'clock.
What are you talking about?
I've been to Washington D.C. more than you can count on your hands and feet.
Okay, I
More than
am just
20
simply
times?
saying,
And I'm just simply saying, every time I went there, just a bunch of fucking deadbeats sitting around saving space so they could play their fucking softball games at 5 o'clock.
I've
But
been to
now
all
Donald
the
Trump's there.
memorials. I've been to all those memorials and
all about.
I've never considered myself patriotic. But like when you
Well, you're
stand
not.
there,
I don't
Okay.
consider you patriotic either.
okay,
It
well I
just
think
is-
mom would like it.
It's sad to me that you guys you're not patriotic to the country that you live in and we live
When
in.
it comes to D.C., Haley, you haven't been there near as much.
All
as I
right.
have.
Okay, we're done with that
Well,
conversation.
she thinks she knows more than me about Washington D.C.
No, she's
Bullshit.
okay.
No one ever said that. Why do you hang on a minute, Dad? Why do you wait, Mom? Hang
Oh,
on one
shut
second.
up.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Can you guys hear me? What's going on over there? Now you're fighting?
No.
Dad, I want to ask you this question. You immediately took that to this confrontational, adversarial level that was
That's
like,
right.
she thinks she
No,
knows more than
Haley
me.
immediately took it to a confrontation, saying that, oh, well, I haven't been to D.C. enough to know anything about it.
I didn't
When's
say
the last
that.
time you went?
I've been there at least 10 or 15 times more than she has.
All
I
right.
simply asked, have you been to DC? Because if you haven't, I think you'd enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
What I just don't understand why you guys don't have patriotism for a country that you live in.
At Spectrum, we believe every day unlocks unlimited possibilities. Spectrum transforms your gaming experience into a galaxy of adventures.
Ellie,
Fuck off.
Tell me why.
I want universal
Well,
health
she's a
care. I
triangle.
want reproductive health care. I want people not to be disappeared on the street. I want to be able to send my kids to school without being shot. Do you want me to keep going on? I want to be able to buy a house. It's not $500,000. I could go on forever.
You can buy houses that aren't $500,000.
No, you can't.
Oh yes, you can. Oh my god.
In my suburb, like a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home right now is like almost
Well, here we are again. We've got brand new data out today showing that U.S. manufacturing has contracted for the second consecutive month in April, with the ISM Manufacturing Index dropping from 49 to 48.7. And remember, anything below 50 means the sector is shrinking, not growing. In total, 41% of manufacturing GDP contracted in April, which tells you everything you need to know about the state of Donald Trump's promised manufacturing boom. And if this sounds familiar, it's because we've been here before. This is Donald Trump's second presidency, his second opportunity to deliver on manufacturing promises, and his second failure to live up to his word. But instead of admitting reality, Trump and his team are still out here talking about a new golden age.
We're approaching the dawn of America's golden age. It's going to be a golden age for America. We have things that nobody else has. We have more natural resources. We have, number one, nobody knew that until I came along. I made us number one. We're number three. I made us number one in a very short period of time in drilling. There's never been anything like what's happened in the list since we won the election. Couple of months since we won the election, the whole perception of the whole world is different.
Let me be crystal clear about what is actually happening here. The manufacturing sector is experiencing stagflation, weak demand and price pressures now accompanied by evidence of production declines. That's not a golden age, that is an economic nightmare. But Trump wants you to believe that this is all part of some grand master plan. The White House put out a fact sheet claiming that studies have repeatedly shown that Trump's tariffs in the first term strengthened the U.S. economy and led to significant reshoring in manufacturing. Really? Because the actual numbers tell a completely different story. According to Economic Policy Institute senior economist Robert E. Scott, nearly 1,800 factories have disappeared under Trump between 2016 and 2018. That's not reshoring, that is the exact opposite. In fact, you don't have to look further than Trump's Foxconn debacle. Remember when he announced a $10 billion investment by Foxconn for a manufacturing facility that would create 13,000 new jobs? By 2021, Foxconn abandoned most of its plans and never delivered on the promise. So much for Trump being this master deal maker. Even Biden chided Trump for his failure, saying this:
our country's proud manufacturing legacy. Well, we had infrastructure day every week for 4 years. Didn't build a damn thing. Kane administration promised a $10 billion investment by Foxconn to build a new manufacturing complex, create 13,000 new jobs. In fact, he came here with your Senator, Ron Johnson, literally holding a golden shovel, promising to build the 8th wonder of the world. Are you kidding me? Look what happened. They dug a hole with those golden shovels, and then they fell into it. Look, they didn't shovel other dirt. They did shovel some dirt. 100 homes were bulldozed. They wasted hundreds of millions of dollars, your state and local tax dollars, to promise a project that never happened. Foxconn turned out to be just that, a con. Go figure.
But here's the really absurd part. We just had a manufacturing boom under Joe Biden. Dean Baker, the economist and co-founder of the Center for Economic and Policy Research, said what we're spending building factories adjusted for inflation in 2024 was twice what it was in 2019. We've never seen a boom like that in the post-war era. According to Fred, total manufacturing construction spending topped $234 billion as of March 2025. In other words, Biden delivered an actual manufacturing construction boom that was unprecedented in the post-war era. And Trump's response is to implement policies that are immediately causing manufacturing to contract. That's like being handed a winning lottery ticket and then lighting it on fire because you think you can do better, only with no cogent plan to actually do it. And the business community understands that when you dig 1 inch beneath the surface, Trump's strategy is completely baseless. According to the National Association of Manufacturers Outlook Survey, there was a decrease in positive outlook among manufacturers, broad-based concerns over trade uncertainties and rising input costs, and slowing capital investments in the first quarter of this year. CEOs, too, across the industries are concerned with Trump's economic agenda. According to the latest What CEOs Talk About report, mentions of the keyword tariff during earnings calls jumped 190%, while mentions of uncertainty climbed 49%, and hiring freeze mentions skyrocketed 286%. Listen to what Alcoa CEO Bill Opplinger said. It's very hard to make an investment decision, even on something like a restart, without knowing how long the tariffs will last. And General Motors CFO Paul Jacobson warned, as much as the market is pricing in a big impact of tariffs and lost profitability, think about a world where on top of that, we're spending billions of dollars in capital, and then it ends, right? That's not confidence in Trump's golden age, that is fear about economic chaos, all created by Trump himself. But let's be honest about what Trump's real strategy is here. This isn't about actually delivering results. It is about creating a narrative that sounds good to his base while the economy suffers the consequences. Trump continues to promise that his tariff regime will usher in a new golden age for American workers with an explosion of high-paying manufacturing jobs, but more expensive imports guarantee the supposed manufacturing renaissance will turn out to be fool's gold for American workers. And that's exactly what we're seeing play out in real time. We know it doesn't work. And yet here we are again, watching manufacturing contract while Trump gives speeches about golden ages. This is what happens when you elect somebody who confuses slogans with strategy. Make America great again and golden age sound great on paper, but they are not economic policies. They are marketing gimmicks designed to distract from the fact that Trump has no idea how to actually improve manufacturing competitiveness in a global economy.
You can even recreate any image you see on the internet. Just upload your own content and it will
Bitch, get your fucking AI titties out of my face.
The tragic part
What
is that
the
we
fuck?
had a path forward with Biden's
Jesus.
approach, investing in infrastructure, semiconductor manufacturing through the CHIPS Act, clean energy production through the Inflation Reduction Act. All of that was actually working. According to the White House, there had been over $860 billion in private commitments made for manufacturing projects since Biden took office. But Trump wants to repeal all of that, solely because he doesn't like that Joe Biden's successes eclipsed his. And his priority is protecting not the U.S. economy, but his own fragile ego. The bottom line is this: Trump has now had 2 opportunities to deliver on manufacturing. His first term saw nearly 1,800 factories disappear, and his second term is off to an even worse start, with manufacturing contracting for multiple months in a row. At what point do we stop pretending that Donald Trump's promises have any connection to reality? American workers deserve better than empty slogans and failed policies. They deserve leaders who understand that global competitiveness comes from innovation, investment, and smart policy, not from trade wars that make American manufacturers less competitive and American consumers poorer. But as long as Donald Trump keeps treating economic policy like a reality TV show, we're going to keep getting reality TV results. Lots of drama, lots of promises, and very little actual success. The only thing golden about Trump's manufacturing policy is the opportunity that he's creating for other countries to eat our lunch while we're busy shooting ourselves in the foot. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support it, option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.
He announced or re-announced his increasing of steel tariffs. With now, I'd barely even mention that because who even knows? These tariff announcements mean nothing now because he changes them every 2 seconds. But he held the thing, people in hard hats behind him. He's saying, I'm great for you guys, whatever. Right? We know these events. An interesting programming note was made, though, on the part of Fox News not to cut to the feed of Trump's rally, and instead to cover a different story. Maybe Trump wouldn't like that, getting less attention, and CNN even chose to broadcast it live. But I found the thing they were talking about instead to be a little bit fascinating, and then we'll talk a little bit about this speech itself. But Aaron Rupart did take note of the fact that Trump's face matches the orange vests and helmets behind him. To which some MAGA account responded, and how does it affect his politics? People's president, true leader, salute. Always good. Love the diehard supporters. And Asen said, what Fox is airing instead of the Trump rally? So let's show, what were they airing instead of the Trump rally? Let's watch.
Sydney Sweeney is making a splash and some cash with her bath. The actress is selling soap made from actual droplets of her used bathwater, and it's only limited to 5,000 bars. So place your orders right away. Jesse, I'm sure you want to call her like a 3 or something like that.
No. 8. I don't rank women based on their appearance.
Only
personality. I have an announcement I'd like to make. Jesse's Body Wash. It's basically runoff from my shower into a container, and I'll be selling it for $14.99.
It's a lot of hair.
Made in America, people. Line up, foxnewsshop.com.
This is smart capitalism. Right, Shannon?
There is no one on the planet who I want their bathwater. It's no one.
Not even
Good?
George.
She's gorge. No, I just we can shower together. Whatever.
She is gorge.
She's very gorgeous. But I feel like in our
Who can shower together? What? What'd she say? I missed something.
house, if I was going to monetize something, it would have to do with Biscuit Bream, our lab, because Katie can speak to this. There's hair everywhere. Yeah. She might get a sweater line. You could weave that stuff together. That's all I got.
What if you find a hair in the soap?
Maybe there's biscuit soap.
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I don't know if Trump's gonna love that that's what they were talking about instead of covering his big, massive. The thing is he always has a new, this is the big announcement, we're holding a rally. And then 2 seconds later, you can say, actually, I've reduced them back down 25% because they went from 25 to 50% on steel imports. But just quickly, if you missed this, this prompted an inspiration. But this was the announcement from actress Sydney Sweeney about her bathwater. Since I think you would like, I think you're interested, no? Is this not what you were hoping to hear on the show?
Hello, you dirty little boys. Are you interested in my body?
Ha!
Wash.
Ha back!
Hello, you dirty little boys. Are you interested in my body?
Ha! I'm a dirty little boy. She's talking to me. She's talking about me. I'm a dirty little.
I went to see my knee surgeon. He wanted to do total knee replacement. I have really severe bone and bone. He looked at me and he said, we do a pain assessment. He said, you have no pain? I said, no, I don't have any pain. I got this great collagen. And he goes, well, just keep it going because
algae.
Hello, you dirty little boys. Are you interested in my body? Wash. Well, you can't have it. Because this isn't for boys. It's for me.
So then I guess soap bars that have real droplets of her used bathwater. And what I said before was that as Democrats struggle to figure out how to reach out to men, that they could, instead of spending their $20 million on understanding like male lingo or whatever, they could just spend it on mass producing these and then like giving them out at rallies, which it's just like one idea, but in all seriousness, you need to be put on a list. If you buy this, sorry, you're on a list. I'm putting you on a list. If you're buying this, I want to figure out Amazon or Sydney Sweeney does bathbars.com. I want to put you on a list. Something is very wrong. If like you would be using, or do you just keep it and smell? I don't even want to know. Okay, you creep, you perv.
What a creep. What a jerk.
Exactly. Thank you, Elon. But it's freaking me out. But while that was being discussed, Trump was holding his rally that they found less interesting than Sydney Sweeney's bath bars. What are those called? Soap bars. Yeah, soap bar with her bath water in it. And this was some of Trump's speech.
Last month, we also cut the trade deficit in half, and that's the story of today. They can't believe it. The numbers just came. We cut, before we even get started, actually, we cut it in half.
This is really funny. Justin Wolfer said in response, Step 1, double trade deficit. Step 2, halve trade deficit. Step 3, declare much success. American imports, and then it's attached to it is a visual that demonstrates this. Americans' imports shot up in anticipation of Trump tariffs, then receded once the tariffs were imposed. So that makes some sense. No, stockpiling, and then you're done stockpiling once they're imposed, and that's the trade deficit because of imports going up and exports were staying the same. And then if you'll notice on this, exports essentially staying flat. So the reason you would say the trade deficit narrowing would be good is because you're thinking, oh, just imports dropping isn't necessarily good. That just means people might be consuming less, or in this case, they stockpiled and then now are using their stockpile. But the good part would be that U.S. companies are getting to export more because there's more demand abroad for U.S. stuff. But that's not what's happening. And this is the story of Trump's administration. Create problems. Don't even really solve them, but like back off of your thing that caused the problem and then declare big victory, major victory. He also declared victory during this rally about this?
Jobs, and those numbers are going through the roof. We're going to have close to $11 trillion invested in new investments in the United States, and you can look at
Every day he says it, it goes up another trillion. It's great. It's probably a trillion. I don't even know. It depends on how you calculate these things, because I guess he's just taking credit for any new things that happen in the country, and that number makes absolutely no sense. Well, now a big part of this rally was focused on too the deal between Nippon Steel and U.S. Steel, something that Trump opposed but now is for, and it looks like it's going to go through in part because of that. And media reports on Fox News with Laura Ingraham openly questioning whether President Donald Trump was fully informed on Nippon Steel's $14.9 billion takeover of U.S. Steel as she wrestled with the president's newfound embrace of the acquisition announced at a rally on Friday, because he previously has said he's totally against it. And this does undercut, seemingly, his whole argument, which is we have to do all this trade stuff because of national security reasons, and because we can't have any supply chains, even for things that would never cause a national security issue, like shoes or something, that we can't have those dependent on other countries. But then here, that Nippon is a Japanese company. Oh, I sounded just like Trump there. A company that's within a country, which is a country, which is a company. So I didn't mess up. I just was saying different things that you couldn't follow because I'm doing the weed. And if you had a Japanese company owning U.S. Steel or merging with U.S. Steel, then something that is relevant to U.S. national security now has a little bit of a conflict of interest, given that ownership shift, which was the argument from Trump as to why he was against it before, but now he's for it. To which Laura Ingraham says, does he even know what's going on? Not those words, but that's what she's trying to communicate here. In which all of us respond, no. Please do click the subscribe button if you appreciate this channel. That's the free way. Just boom, easy.
First. This was quite a rally in Pittsburgh. We haven't seen a Trump rally of this sort in a long while. Here to break it all down, Alex Marlow, Breitbart editor-in-chief, host of the Alex Marlow Show. Alex, this is being described as a partnership, this deal between Nippon and U.S. Steel, but then it's described as an acquisition on the U.S. Steel website.
Engineers created a way to multiply your garden hose pressure by 15 times without using a single drop of power. The secret? A revolutionary...
The secret? Shutting the fuck up.
As a total side note, the way she pronounced that sounds a little bit like a cream you would put if you chafed after going for a long run on like your nipple area. Nippon. Are you a marathon runner? Do your nipples chafe? Well, we got a thing for you. Nippon. With small particles of Sydney Sweeney's bathwater.
As a partnership, and President Trump said he will be watching over things as things proceed, as this deal goes forward. Have you seen any of the terms of this deal thus far? Like, who owns the majority stake in this company?
Laura, this is exactly where I was hoping you would start, because I'm reading all these different things. I'm trying to get deal details, and I'm hearing it's an investment. Okay, that sounds terrific. And then here's a partnership. I'm thinking, wait a minute. And then you think about it, U.S. Steel has been, Nippon Steel's had its eye on U.S. Steel, trying to buy it for 18 months. And we cannot have U.S. Steel owned by a foreign company. Even a great country like Japan should not be owning any part of U.S. major manufacturing. I mean, that is a major national security risk. And I've not seen the deal details. The rally was sensational. I completely trust Donald Trump, and I trust the current Japanese government to do something good. But we have to insulate ourselves, Laura, in case we have a bad president one day. So any deal, when we see these terms, it needs to be Pete Buttigieg proof. It needs to be Kamala Harris proof. The amount of surveillance we're going to have to do, the amount of censoring and surveying that we're going to have to do to make sure that Japan can't use U.S. Steel to leverage us in a dispute, it's going to be a lot. I trust Trump. I don't trust everyone else on this.
Well, and I don't know if he was fully informed about the terms of the deal. Well, we just don't know. But if anyone would protect American workers and American...
Yeah, it's Trump, I know. Now, I love it. It's so much like the Epstein things. What Why hasn't Trump released any more information about Epstein? I trust him completely. But could someone be hiding it from him? Could they have shredded the documents? Could they have just misinformed him? It's like, what about the option where he doesn't want it? I trust him completely, but he usually doesn't know what's going on. I think that's like one of the jobs of the president, is to kind of know the deals they're signing off on. And the funny thing is, his whole trade policy is about, we have to protect our interests by making sure that Barbie dolls are made here. Like, because if we go to war with China, they might cut off Barbie doll production. But then, to which I usually say, hey, I disagree with these crazy broad tariffs, but if you were to make a trade argument, and you could also do this through more positive carrot approaches, like we saw with the CHIPS Act. But all right, I would be more willing to hear out some of the particular targeted tariffs, because you're saying we don't want to be relying on China in particular, in case anything were to go awry, on things that would be necessary from manufacturing basic infrastructure as well as military needs. But his whole argument there contradicts him being now for this deal, which isn't China, obviously, and is one of our close allies. And to the guy's point, Japan deals very nicely with the United States, and we like them, we love them. But it still does contradict that, because he makes the same argument with other allies whenever there's intertwined trade relationships, and now U.S. Steel. The way they're wording it is very confusing. You'll hear them talk about it more here on Fox. Laura Ingraham, to her credit, is concerned. But all of that's to say that my marker's following. All that's also to say that they will never word it like maybe they just disagree with Trump on something. It has to be maybe someone explained it to him wrong. Which, why do you love the guy so much who's always doing things you're annoyed with, but it just is the people under him's fault? I don't know.
Melbourne University.
Yeah, Congressman, I don't blame. I think
risk for them to take.
Yeah, you're doing what you should do for your district. I don't have any doubt about that. But President Trump campaigned against a deal that would end up.
Laura, do you not know by now he doesn't believe anything? There's very few things, except for he's awesome, that he believes in this life. So someone came into his room and said, hey, I have some interest in this acquisition or merger or whatever. I have some interest in it, so can you let it go forward? And he went, cool. But Trump campaigned against it, but then now he's doing something different. Yeah, he flip-flops on everything, but you don't ever acknowledge that he doesn't really have core beliefs. Except for
concepts of a plan.
He does have concepts of a plan, not core beliefs, though. And it's just whoever last told him something, or whatever he thinks in the near term will benefit him.
There's one simple cleaning trick seniors can use to instantly clean toilets without any scrubbing. Take your most disgusting toilet.
Ew,
yes, even that night.
With
that dirty ass AI fucking toilet out of here, you fucking piece of
industry like
shit.
steel in the hands of a foreign entity. Now, you're saying we don't see the terms of the deal. I always want the lawyer, so I want to see the deal. I don't know why they're hiding the terms of the deal. I haven't seen the deal. Have you actually seen the terms of the deal?
No, I have seen where CFIUS is on it and how those national security concerns can be mitigated. And I also know that the president has reviewed it, as has, I believe, Scott Bessent. Howard.
I'm sure Trump was diligently flipping through pages of the particulars of this deal before he made this decision. It definitely wasn't just something he saw on TV and went, maybe we should do that. He did announce at this rally, as I told you, the big note was about tariffs on steel imports going from 25 to 50.
We are going to be imposing a 25% increase. We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel into the United States of America, which will even further secure the steel industry in the United States. Nobody's.
Yeah, so what's interesting is, while this will have some very serious consequences, if this were his only thing, I can economically disagree with it, but the thread you can follow, as opposed to his other arguments, tariffing all imports from a lot of countries, that then he goes, but I don't think we should be making t-shirts here. I don't think we should be making shoes here. Then why are you tariffing those things? But Justin Wolfers, again, now our go-to economist here, said the 2018 steel tariffs just called to remind you that steel is produced by a tiny sliver of the economy, but used as an input by a much broader swath of manufacturers. Remember, steel is produced by a small number of firms, but used as an input by many, many more. And this is the effects of 2018 steel tariffs on U.S. manufacturing employment, showing jobs gained by steel producers was 1,000, jobs lost by steel users was 75,000. So you do have to be very mindful of something that is used so broadly, but relatively small, jobs necessary for the manufacturing, that you could have a cost-benefit analysis of such an act that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That's where I'll leave this one. Share your thoughts in the comments.
Easiest thing the Democrats could do all day, every day is point out what whining, triggered, snowflake, titty babies MAGA men are. I have never heard such a nonstop parade of whining, crying grown men in my entire life. I'm 50 years old. I've never seen such a sustained whine. Listen to Dan Bongino complain about his job.
I gave up everything for this. I mean, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Cash is there all day. We share it. Our offices are linked. He turns on the faucet. I hear it. He's there. He gets in at like 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't leave till 7 at night. I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym. I work out in my apartment. But I stare at these four walls all day in D.C., by myself, divorced from my wife. Not divorced, but separated, divorced. And it's hard. I mean, we love each other, and it's hard to be apart.
But you're doing some great work.
Wah! Wah!
At Spectrum, we know life moves fast. Keep up with the speed, reliability, and security of Spectrum.
Wow, I have to go to work. I get there at 7:30 in the morning. There are four walls. When my boss uses the sink and he turns it on, I can hear it. It's so hard to have a real job. It was so much easier when I got to shit talk and lie on a podcast for an hour a week. And that was it. This is a real job, and I actually have to put in 40 hours a week, and I'm not a victim or anything.
I mean, what a pussy. What a titty baby. You think he's the only person that's ever had a job? How about somebody that has to have 2 or 3 jobs to keep their head above water? And I want to say this. Not too long ago, Kash Patel was also the interim head of the ATF. He was fired from that position because he wouldn't leave Las Vegas.
Bill that is right now being considered in the Senate. A budget bill that will gut health care for 13.7 million Americans and food assistance to the tune of $300 billion. Now, initially, Senator Josh Hawley came out and said this.
We're not talking here about just work requirements. The House goes much, much, much further than that. This is real Medicaid benefit cuts. I can't support that. No Republican should support that. We're the party of the working class, Mon, and we need to act like it.
Some pretty strong words there about a bill that has since passed the House since he made that comment on May 14th, with no other changes since Hawley criticized it. And yet, now, here's evidence of the new talking point being trotted out on the right. Hawley tweeted, quote, "Just had a great talk with President Trump about the big, beautiful bill. He said again, no Medicaid benefit cuts." So let me get this straight. Hawley did an entire media tour skewering the bill because of its cuts to Medicaid, and he branded himself some champion for health care, and then the bill passes, again, with no changes between that media tour and now, and suddenly all it took was for Donald Trump to fart out some half-baked assurance that Medicaid wouldn't be cut for Hawley to completely fall in line. In other words, you've got Trump, who famously couldn't tell the truth if his life depended on it, and then you've got the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, whose only job is to score these bills that's saying that 13.7 million people will lose health care, including Medicaid benefits, and Hawley opts to side with Trump? But hey, working class champion, am I right? Here's what actually happened. Hawley wants his cake and to eat it too. He wants to be able to frame himself as some populist champion, do the cable rounds, build his brand as a protector of Medicaid, write a little New York Times op-ed demanding no cuts to Medicaid, but then also wants to be a good little foot soldier for Daddy Trump. and Trump wants his big, beautiful bill, which means he expects his minions, of which Josh Hawley is a part, to fall in line and vote for it. And so Hawley needed a way to square that circle, and so what he landed on was the very believable, well, Trump promised me that it won't cut Medicaid despite every independent scorekeeper assuring us that it would do so, and so I'm going to blindly side with Trump and vote for the bill that does the exact thing that I just spent weeks pretending that I'm against. To say that this guy is acting in bad faith would be the understatement of the century. But, importantly, he knows he can probably get away with it because of how the Republicans structured this bill and its cuts to Medicaid, as explained by Elizabeth Warren in our latest interview here.
What if you can create your own website by saying, this is what I want? With Wix, you can.
Boo.
Roadrunner cartoons. Remember the bomb?
Yeah.
That you would buy, right, from Acme?
Yep.
Right? That what they want to do is they want to do a bomb with a really long fuse. And they want to say, we're going to cut health care for millions of Americans, and we're going to cut food help for millions of Americans. But we know that that is going to be terrible for millions of families, and it's going to be terrible for the economy. So we're going to pass the law now, like the fuse, and it's not going to explode mostly until right after the election.
Yeah.
That way, we can do the deny reality. We can all go out, and all of those Republicans can campaign saying, nope, nobody got hurt here. Did anybody get hurt here? Nobody's been hurt. Stop being so hysterical about this, and try to bend reality. But understand about these cuts. They're going to hit literally tens of millions of families. They're going to hit new babies, half of all new babies, who are going to lose access to health care, new mamas, people with disabilities, little babies, children with disabilities.
In other words, they know full well that this absolutely is going to gut Medicaid from millions upon millions upon millions of Americans, but they have purposefully designed this bill so that it won't happen until just after midterms, until they're no longer accountable to voters. So they're suspending the pain just long enough that they won't face consequences for their own actions. That's how stupid they think you are. And if you're wondering why the sudden change of heart from Hawley, not exactly rocket science. According to one Punchbowl News reporter, Trump spoke with Hawley today, wherein he reportedly told Hawley that politicians who cut Medicaid are stupid and lose elections. So rather than, not cut Medicaid, they're just delaying those cuts until after voters have already cast their ballots. They don't give a shit what happens to the voters, they just care that they don't have to face any consequences for it. And the fact that Trump has issued his marching orders isn't just evidence with Hawley. Here's Russ Vogt, Project 2025 author and Trump's OMB director, parroting this same bullshit line.
The other reason why we're seeing some pushback is because of the Medicaid cuts that were passed by the House and that are going to go into the Senate. There was a town hall, which I'm sure you saw. Iowa Senator Joni Ernst was asked, it was pretty raucous, about the Medicaid cuts. And she responded by saying, people were saying that people are going to die. And she said, we're all going to die. But the question that she was getting were from constituents were concerns about Medicaid, food stamps, and other government support programs leading to people dying and premature deaths. What do you say to those concerns?
I think they're totally ridiculous. This is AstroTurf. This bill will preserve and protect the programs, the social safety net, but it will
You lie like a rug.
Look, 1 out of every $5 or $6 in Medicaid is improper. We have illegal immigrants on the program. We have able-bodied working adults that don't have a work requirement that they would have in TANF or even SNAP. And those are something that's very important to institute. That's what this bill does. No one will lose coverage as a result of this bill.
That's not what Josh Hawley, who is not exactly a liberal Democrat, said. He said it's wrong to cut health care for the working poor, and that's what we're talking about here with Medicaid.
Well, we continue to work with people in the Senate as to working them through with the specifics of the bill, what it does and what it doesn't do. We'll continue to do that, and I think at the end of the day, the Senate will have a resounding vote in favor of a substantially similar bill.
See? Why bother protecting Medicaid when you can just lie and say that you're protecting Medicaid with zero intention of actually doing it? This is the strategy now. Just lie through your teeth and hope your supporters are too gullible, too stupid to know the difference. The reality is that this is the cornerstone of the MAGA agenda. Trump has promised his supporters that he would build the wall along the entire southern border. The guy built 52 miles of wall. That's it. But why bother doing the hard work when you can just...
Whoops.
Trump promised his supporters that he presided over a booming economy his first term. Another lie. He presided over an economic contraction, which he continues to do right now. Trump promised a manufacturing boom both terms, and both terms he's failed to deliver. His first term saw a manufacturing loss of 178,000 jobs, and his second term is witnessing even more manufacturing loss, as just today it was announced that we've just endured 2 straight months of manufacturing decline, despite Trump's grandiose promises of a new golden age. Let's be clear, the guy just says words. You could fly 7 in the space between what Trump says and the actual reality. So these Republican mouthpieces will pretend that up is down and black is white because they have realized that spewing straight lies to their audience is a hell of a lot more convenient than actually being honest and doing the work. Our job then is to make sure that everyone knows exactly what it is they're doing and to repeat the truth every single day between now and November 2026 so that Americans can see exactly the ways that Trump and his Republican Party are screwing them over. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on this screen.
This is not a drink, it's a drug. Here's how it became the most widely used drug on earth and why.
Okay, yesterday on CBS's Face the Nation, Donald Trump's former pick for FDA, or his pick for FDA commissioner, Marty Makary, Dr. Marty Makary, spent time cherry picking vaccine skepticism with out of context statistics and attempting to pass them off as medical evidence. Margaret Brennan looks genuinely stunned, and for good reason, because although this is an individual with a medical degree speaking, this was really a political influencer in a metaphorical lab coat, pushing the idea that if enough people believe something about a vaccine, then it must be valid public health advice. If a lot of people don't like the vaccine must be bad. This is a doctor speaking. Take a listen to this.
So I don't know if you know these statistics, but 88% of American kids, their parents have said no to the COVID shot last season. So the vast majority of Americans are saying no. Maybe they want to see some clinical data as well. Maybe they have concerns about the safety.
I don't want to crowdsource my health guidance. I want a clear thing, right? You don't go with popularity. You go with, as you're saying, data. When we look
so
at
let's see
that
the
data.
data.
Okay, so the CDC data said 41% of children aged 6 months to 17 years hospitalized with COVID between 2022 and 2024 did not have a known underlying condition. In other words, they looked healthy, and COVID was serious for them.
So, first of all, we know the CDC data is contaminated with a lot of false positives.
Shut
from
the
incidental
fuck up.
positive
You
COVID
lie
tests
like a
with
fucking
routine
rug
testing of every kid that
again.
walks in the hospital. When I go to the ICU, when I walk to the we know that data historically under the Biden administration did not distinguish being sick from COVID or an incidental positive COVID test. When you go to an ICU in America and you ask how many people are in the ICU that are healthy, that are sick with COVID, the answer I get again and again is we haven't seen that in a year or years. And so the worst thing you can do in public health is to put out an
Yeah, because
absolute
people are
universal
fucking
recommendation for healthy
vaccinated
kids.
now, you
And
dumb
the vast majority
shit.
of Americans are saying, no, we want to see some data. And you say, forget about the data, just get it anyway.
Okay, so on data and transparency. For decades, since 1964, it was the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, ACIP, that went through this panel recommendation. I mean, people watched these things during COVID. The report was then handed up. It offered debate, it offered transparency, and it offered data points that people could refer back to. Why did you bypass all of this and just come down with a decision before the panel could meet and get that data?
That panel has been a kangaroo court where they just rubber.
So listen, the data's bad because of this reason. The CDC panel is bad because of this reason. Just trust Bobby Kennedy Jr. and whatever he tells you as he wipes raw milk off of his mouth, and trust Marty Makary, and trust the fact that a great number of Americans are self-destructive and stubbornly ignorant, and as a result of that, they haven't gotten the vaccine, so you shouldn't either. And Margaret Brennan does a really good job of exposing Marty Makary here. for making it up as he goes along, making conflicting recommendations, casting doubt on CDC data, while then saying, no, the data you can believe. And he is so terrible during this interview that she is left shaking her head as she wraps it up.
Me too, right now. You just said don't trust the CDC.
We're saying it's going to be between a doctor and a patient until that committee meets or more experts weigh in or we get some clinical data. If there's zero clinical data, you're opining. I mean, it's a theory. And so we don't want to put up
Wrong definition of theory, by the way. This is a doctor.
an absolute recommendation for kids
Yeah.
with no clinical data.
So you made this pronouncement as well on pregnant women. There is data. Researchers in the UK analyzed a series of 67 studies, which included 1.8 million women. And the journal BMJ Global Health published it. People can Google it at home. And it says the COVID vaccine in pregnant women is highly effective in reducing the odds of maternal SARS-CoV-2 infection, hospital admission, and improves pregnancy outcomes with no serious safety concerns. This is data that shows that it is recommended or could be advised for pregnant women to take this vaccine. Why do you find otherwise?
There's no randomized control trial. That's the gold standard. Those 67 studies are mixed. The data in pregnant women is different for healthy versus women with a comorbid condition. So it's a very mixed bag. So we're saying your obstetrician, your primary care doctor, and the pregnant woman should together decide whether or not to get it. 12% of pregnant women last year got the COVID shot. So people have serious concerns, and it's probably because they want to see a randomized trial data. The randomized trial in pregnant women.
The world moves on. And you published in the New England Journal of Medicine on May 20th, in that report you referenced, you listed pregnancy as an underlying medical condition that increases a person's risk for severe COVID. You said that. So then 7 days later, you joined in this video announcement saying you should drop the recommendation for the COVID vaccine in healthy pregnant women. So what changed in the
In the New England Journal of Medicine, we simply list what the CDC has traditionally defined as high risk, and we're just saying decide with your doctor.
If you're confused, this guy is as pathetic as you can imagine. So your confusion is because he's flip-flopping. And finally, here's Margaret Brennan just kind of shaking her head. How is this the guy that the Trump administration is putting forward?
Unclear what pregnant women now should do until they get the data that you say
talk to their doctor.
When do they get the data you're promising? All these controlled studies.
In the absence of data, they should talk to their doctor, and their doctor
So no
will use
data.
their best wisdom and judgment.
FDA Commissioner, thank you for trying to help clear.
So let's kind of see if we can disaggregate a couple of different things here. When it comes to reducing hospitalization and death, the COVID vaccines are really good. I think most people I know wish, that it were better at preventing transmission. It's not. The first one way back in 2021 was, as the variants started to come forward and new versions of the vaccine were put out, they weren't and aren't good at preventing transmission or infection, but they're very good at reducing hospitalization and death.
Won't believe what this new German hydraulic jet system can do for you. It can restore patios, cars, driveways, and more in
Can it
seconds.
fuck
using-
off?
One of the things that is true is that childhood COVID mortality is low, but it's not zero. Vaccination rates dropped among kids because of politicized fear mongering, not because of safety data that was concerning to people. And the same CDC data that he cherry picks when it's convenient shows that vaccinated kids had lower hospitalization rates and fewer long COVID cases. It's just the data. You can say, I don't care about that, but you should acknowledge the totality of the data. Makari presents it like it's proof the vaccine's not worth it. In reality, it's just proof that misinformation works. Now, here's the thing about Marty Makary. He's not always wrong, and that's what makes him dangerous. He wrote a book that has a lot of interesting chapters in it, where he talks about surprise medical billing. He talks about over-testing and over-treatment in the United States. He talks about how it turns out that a lot of appendicitis cases can be successfully treated with antibiotics, even though there's a bias to doing an appendectomy. He talks about how vaginal birth after C-section is actually something that is much more feasible than many in the United States acknowledge, being very quick to say, if you had one C-section, we're going to do another one. He's got a lot of interesting stuff that he has written about, administrative bloat. But then on this issue, partially because of the administration that he's in, partially because most people aren't right about everything, he has started to really appeal to the anti-vax, anti-science circle. And this is who Trump wanted to run the FDA. So Margaret Brennan's reaction here was good. Why would we go with popularity rather than data? And then he's cherry picking data that you can versus can't trust from the CDC. So Makari sometimes has a point on some of these issues. He's found elements of greed in the medical system that he's called out in his book. When it comes to vaccines, he's now really just trading in ideology over evidence. And this is why putting people like this in charge of science is a very bad idea. Did you know that 80% of New Year's resolutions fail? By human will tell you if you need to carve
Boo,
up
ad.
for an energy boost, or if you're
Looking for the right weight loss treatment for you? Through hers, you can access personalized weight loss.
We've all ignored red flags before, but carrying around a busted
Immigration stuff obviously is heating up because it was reported, I guess, last week that Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem demanded of ICE leadership that it hit their target of 3,000 immigrant detainments per day, I think it was. I think prior to that, they were doing 600. Maybe it was on a week, weekly or daily. Will you check on that for me? Nevertheless, it was an increase in these detainments as a multiple of 5. And so
what?
Immigration is going and rounding up people. We've seen footage, and we'll play some of this of them in San Diego, of them in Massachusetts. Seems to be one of the states that they're really hitting hard. I think they're trying really to emphasize blue states. And at a immigration hearing yesterday in New York City, there were protests there. And at one point, the protests were getting out of hand, and I don't know how much they were getting out of hand, but they were loud. And the cops there wanted them to disperse. And apparently, this is the story as I understand it, Jerry Nadler's office is in that same building. And one of the staffers said to some of the protesters, look, come up into the office and, let's reset everything and calm down. They went up there. I think they then left. But then apparently these federal cops.
Oh, I remember this video. Went up to the fucking office.
And bust into the office and immediately arrest or cuff one of the workers there. All right, take it from the beginning.
You're not. That is not what happened.
Listen back.
Okay. Hold on a second. You have your contact information right now. No, I'm going to give you time. Hey, that's not going to be
I also love how nobody wants to give their information now because they know what they're doing is sketchy as a motherfucker.
Stop resisting.
Rioters in the office. So the officers have a problem with what we said. Come on. Let me still finish. Come on. So he's claiming that they're harboring rioters in the office. None of that. First off, there was no riot there, by anybody's account. Second off, the idea of harboring rioters. Is that a charge?
Oh, don't need a warrant anymore. Guess you can throw the Constitution away.
This is coming on the heels of a congresswoman in New Jersey being arrested by ICE for protest at a detainment facility. Democrats didn't do anything in the wake of that. But here you have federal cops coming into a congressman's office and cuffing an aide. Incidentally, we don't know her name. They didn't arrest her, apparently. This was all just about intimidation. And you look at what's going on with Harvard. This is not a defense of Harvard. But the reason why they're going after Harvard, they're doing it because Harvard is the biggest university, or the most prominent university, supposedly one of the most powerful universities in the country. If they can bring Harvard to heel, they anticipate all the universities are going to come to heel. That's the way they create their authoritarian dominance. They find the biggest, this is literally like biology, right? I mean,
prison.
Right. It's prison. It's the way that apes act. Like, you find the biggest one, you go and you punch him in the face, and then all of a sudden you're in charge of everything. By going after lawmakers and intimidating them this way, this is an attempt by the Trump administration to intimidate. And so what you need to see are Democratic leaders step up and start throwing around their weight. What can they do? All they can do is to talk tough.
Sunlight.
All they can do is
sunlight.
Well, sunlight, but they can also say, there could be threats. Anybody involved in this is going to be held to account. Unless you think this is going to be the government in office for the next 25 years, anybody involved in this is going to be held to account. Where we're taking your name down and you're going to be investigated. And we don't care who it is, you're going to be held to account. Subpoenas and whatnot. You better hope the Democrats don't take the House in 2026.
And
because your ass is going to be in line, because you've got to throw this intimidation back. Instead, what I give you, ladies and gentlemen, is Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in Congress, probably the number 2 most powerful Democrat in the country.
And to your point,
after Chuck Schumer.
Yes, and I just want to note that this Nadler is the judiciary ranking member for the Democrats, so they were targeting also a big fish and going after his staffer too.
Congressman Jerry Nadler said that DHS agents entered his congressional office on Wednesday without a warrant and handcuffed a member of his staff. This, of course, comes after the Trump Justice Department charged Democratic Congresswoman LaMonica MacIver with obstructing ICE agents after an altercation at a facility in Newark, New Jersey. Now, I know you previously warned that the administration charging members of Congress was a, quote, red line. What are you doing now that the red line you talked about has apparently been crossed?
Well, let me make clear that the House is a separate and co-equal branch of government, the Congress. We don't work for Donald Trump. We don't work for the administration. We don't work for Elon Musk. We work for the American people. And we have a responsibility to serve as a check and balance on an out-of-control executive branch. That's the constitutional blueprint that was given to us by the framers of the United States democracy that we have inherited over the last few centuries. And so we're going to continue to undertake our congressional responsibility, notwithstanding efforts by the Trump administration to try to intimidate.
Can you believe this is the first 60 or 90 seconds of what this guy has to say? He's basically saying, he might as well say, let me make one thing clear. We're on television now. Television is a technology that allows for images to be beamed into, we know this. The whole premise of the question is, you're a Congress. What are you going to do about it? And he's just let me reiterate what we all know here, as opposed to address your question.
It sounds like he doesn't want to address the topic at all, right? He's talking around it because I don't know if he's gotten the memo on what the polling says about this particular
He
amount
hasn't.
of attention.
We'll get to the polling.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Trump administration to try to intimidate Democrats. It's unfortunate that our Republican colleagues continue to be nothing more than rubber stamps for Trump's reckless and extreme agenda. And the American people, I think, will ultimately reject that next year when we will take back control of the House of Representatives. In the meantime, in terms of how we
I
will
don't know
respond
if I should
to
add
what
anything
Trump
else.
and the administration has endeavored to do, we will make that decision in a time, place, and manner of our choosing, but the response will be continuous and it will meet the moment that is required.
What exactly does that mean? Have you not decided how to respond?
We've publicly responded in a variety of different ways. We haven't let our foot off the gas pedal in terms of additional things that may take place with respect to our congressional oversight authority and capacity. We will respond in a time, place, and manner of our choosing if this continues to happen.
Okay, this is what I don't understand. Keep that image up. Because behind him, it says State of the Union, which is the name of the TV show he's on. But he's answering as if he was asked this question by a waiter at a restaurant and had no idea anybody was going to ask him any question about this. Like, I can't imagine a worse response to this. Even if you were the weakest, lamest, like you had nothing to offer, you can't come up with a better non-answer than this? This is just absolute garbage. Who in the world is this answer for?
I mean, he said, like, we've responded in a variety of ways. What is that? It's everything bagel resistance over there at the with the Democrats. But
Not
it's
only is
just it's so silly.
And not
No
only is it
message.
everything bagel response, it's also, but don't ask me to answer what the next question, which is, what are those things? I mean, if she says, what does that mean? And we're looking at this going like, what does that mean? Why does this guy allow himself to go on television when he cannot even communicate his non-answer?
Just don't go.
Just don't go. Like, what is it that you think this is achieving?
Avoid making these 3 mistakes that could be causing a dry, itchy scalp. 1. Sulfates wash away
1.
natural oils, which can dry out your hair.
Kick fucking rocks. 2. Shut the fuck
Like,
up.
what is this supposed to be achieving? And I'll tell you what it's not achieving. It's not helping Democrats. Look at this poll. Let's go with that CNN. What number is that?
Oh, this is the stuff that Harry Enton put together. I saw this.
No, this
oh
is
no, it's
the other
different.
guy.
Okay.
What number is it?
3A.
3A.
Yeah, and it's gonna be
Pop this up.
Yeah. Oh, this is a different guy.
So much bad.
No.
David Chalian.
Nope. Yeah, they're right here. Listen to this poll. Here's Mano Raju, and I don't know what the name of the guy is.
David Chalian.
David Chalian. You'll see when what people think about Democrats' leadership.
This morning, we have a brand new CNN poll that shows what voters are thinking about both parties. David Chalian joins me here at the Magic Wall to take us through this poll. So, David, what are the key takeaways?
Yeah, this is where we left off on election night 2024, but we wanted to get a sense of where Americans are right now. And one key trend we're looking at here, Manu, is should the government do more, or is the government trying to do too much? 58% in our new poll of Americans now say the government should do more. That is a 30-year high that we have seen. So what's driving that? Why are so many fewer Americans saying that the government is trying to do too much? Well, as you might imagine, we're seeing that movement among Republicans who are in charge of all aspects of government right now. Look at this huge drop. From August of 23, 73% of Republicans said the government was doing too much. That was when Joe Biden was president. Now it's down to 57%. But we also see this decrease in those saying government's doing too much among independents as well. We also wanted to test where the country
Now,
stood.
I don't know what you can really garner from that. Obviously, Republicans now are more confident that if the government does stuff, they're going to be happy with it because it's run by Donald Trump and Republicans. And what they want, I mean, maybe they want more immigration detainments, but there's no indication of that in the polling. Who knows what it is exactly that they want? Probably lower prices. Probably maybe more services. Who knows? But continue.
But the overall number is interesting to me, that it was a 30-year high, 58% saying they want the government doing more, right? Which is why it's the exact wrong time to be making an argument on the Democratic side about how government's red tape is the real problem here,
And,
not
parliamentarian,
billionaires.
please save us.
Yeah.
With the parties on various issues, okay? The crime and policing is by far and away the Republicans' best advantage. R plus 13 now, R plus 14 a couple years ago. But look at the economy and immigration, two key Trump issues. You see, it's still a Republican advantage, but you see that advantage is narrowing on both of those key issues. This gets to what he was saying, I think, about some of the...
Now, on the economy, again, that echoes, maybe they want prices to come down more. Maybe they want better
Bro.
Bagheera. Immigration, maybe Republicans are seeing something different than I am, but the idea that we have Democrats going down to El Salvador. We got Democrats fighting to get people released from detention centers. We got Democrats arrested for detention, means that people aren't happy with what's going on with the immigration work of Republicans. They've lost 8 points on that.
The anxiety people have about the economy over the tariffs that we were talking about. A dead tie on world affairs.
It's a dead tie on world affairs, but it's a -6 from where it was in November. Which they sort of blew through that. That was one of the biggest changes. But be that as it may, Democrats in education and climate change have gone up or stayed the same. It's gone down in abortion because they haven't done anything about it. And they're not in a position to do anything about it, but I think people are upset about that.
Education, abortion, and climate change. We also took a look at some key attributes. This is how Americans sort of see the parties. Which party is better described as the party with strong leaders? Look at this. Wow. 16% of Americans say Democrats, 40% say that of the Republican.
Keep that image up there. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries must think this is to their advantage, because their whole strategy has been do nothing. We just watch Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, look, we know that those law firms who caved to Donald Trump are losing clients. Big story in the Washington Post, I think Wall Street Journal as well. Why is that the case? Why are law firms that caved to Donald Trump losing clients? Law firms that supposedly have ingratiated themselves with the administration. They're losing clients because the clients are saying, hey, if this law firm can't even protect itself from illegal activity, how are they going to protect me? Which is the exact same dynamic that voters are looking at if Hakeem Jeffries can't do anything about federal officers busting through their doors and detaining a staffer for Jerry Nadler. How are they going to do anything for me?
Sorry, guys, I got a fucking Picto chat real quick.
We're going to ask something of Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats, or from Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, and they're going to say, we will choose the time and the place and the situation when we will help you. And we will let you know when that happens.
Party. Now, overall, no party's doing great. Lots of Americans say neither of these qualities apply to either party, but look at how much worse off the Democrats are. A party that gets things done. Only 19% of Americans say that about the Democrats. 36% say it about the Republicans. In fact, the only place that the Democrats are numerically ahead, party of the middle class, is basically a tie.
Party of change. Republicans are up.
Even when they're
Party of extremism.
Isn't that crazy?
Pelosi, Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, they got what they want. They've been angling for that result for, my entire adult life.
They have a 10%, Democrats have a 10% supposed advantage on the party of extremism, but it means nothing. It means nothing.
Also, another good, I think this also indicates how both parties are quite unpopular at the end of the day. But the entire Democratic messaging since Trump has been in politics for 10 years has been to separate him from the brand of the Republican Party.
Yep.
So they could have spent 10 years hanging the unpopularity of the Republicans on the neck of a more charismatic figure for it. Instead, they did the opposite, and they tried to appeal to those Republican voters.
Yeah. 34% say that of Democrats, 32% say that of Republicans. But this, I think, is the most fascinating. How do partisans talk about their own party? So among Democrats and Democratic leaners, 32%
Democrat
say Democrats
wieners
are the party with strong leaders. I mean, of their own kind, right? 82% of Republican leaders say that about the GOP. Only 41% of Democrats say they're the party that gets things done of their own kind. And I will just say, 51%, Manu, a majority of Democratic and Democratic leaners say neither party gets the party that gets things done attribute. Imagine that's the project that Democrats are working on.
Yeah, and beyond the issues here, there's some structural problems with the Democrats. And the interesting thing is, if you look at the Democratic Party, the Republican Party thinks that they're more extreme. You can pop that back, go back just a little bit. Look at that thing. 16% of Republicans perceive their own party as extreme. 9% of Democrats perceive themselves extreme. So the problem isn't that Democratic voters are viewing their party as being, too crazy.
Too pro-trans. Too pro-trans, right? That's like what the argument was, is they went too woke.
They see them not as the party of change, not as the party that gets things done, not of the party of strong leaders. And that's Democrats, never mind Republicans' perception of Democrats that way. They are failing to convince their own party. Never mind failing to convince Republicans. But rest assured, they have a plan, which they will decide upon at a time and place of their own choosing.
Yeah.
We'll be waiting.
APAC will make sure their incumbency is safe and that nothing changes.
Project that Democrats are working on.
Yeah, and beyond the issues here, there's some structural problems with Democrats as well.
There are, and again, this is where we ended up on election night in 2024. This is by county. Obviously, these were the results. But what I want to show you on this next map is we have this amazing opportunity. Donald Trump, a candidate 3 times in a row, to look at those 3 successive elections and take a look here among the shifts that we saw across the country. Everywhere you see red here is a place that Donald Trump improved his performance from 16 to 20 to 24. Now, he lost some of these counties. He didn't win all of them. But you see how much more red there is than blue. Places where, Clinton did better than Obama, Biden did better than Clinton, and Harris improved on that. Far fewer places in America than when Donald Trump increased his vote share over those 3 successive presidential elections, Mon.
Yeah, there's a lot to... And I would add, those places where you see a blue shift look a little bit less populated.
And at least in North Dakota, it is the 2 reservation areas.
Well, the good news is Chuck Schumer is still on his book tour. I know people were concerned about that.
Oh, it's restarted. That's good. I was worried.
People were concerned when you have a huge fight in the Senate right now that could be teed up on a bill that's going to cut 10 million people, 13 million people from Medicaid, millions from food assistance. It's going to cut all sorts of the green tax incentives. It's going to do all sorts of damage to the middle class. It's going to provide tax cuts for the wealthy. There's a host of other provisions in there that are problematic. But good news, Chuck Schumer is out there selling his book and suggesting that there's a problem on the left with anti-Semitism. That's what he's doing right now as the Senate minority leader.
You know, on the left today, we see real anti-Semitism. Real anti-Semitism. The Jewish deli has a rock thrown through it because it's... You can't walk out of fake anti-Semitism crisis than a real Holocaust to the Palestinian people! Come on. There's a real Holocaust happening in Gaza! Free Palestine! Free
Damn, why didn't you guys space out your yelling more? Could have interrupted the whole fucking thing.
Good for those folks.
Yeah.
Right.
Chuck Schumer get off his book tour challenge. I mean, he said this is his primary job.
To keep the Democratic Party pro-Israel. By hook or by crook, right? By enabling fascism, enabling the arrests of people for their free speech, or...
By being Vichy Democrats.
I mean, there is no doubt that Chuck Schumer and the other Democratic lawmakers, unfortunately a majority of them who are complicit in this genocide, have enabled this kind of fascism here at home by continuously backing this false notion that the anti-genocide protests are anti-Semitic and going on a book tour to reinforce this framing.
To say the Democrats take Israel money, they're not a whole lot different than Dave Rubin had on Ambassador to Israel David Friedman on right after October 7th. And his main thing is you need to enforce your border security so this doesn't happen to you. They want us to have the same model that Israel does towards their neighbors. Just wall it up. Violence of anybody toward anybody that doesn't belong. And that's the world that they're creating right in front of our eyes. And Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are happy, and they're frankly bought to go along with side it and not do any sort of real resistance toward it. It's simulated.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
Don't yell at me.
Washington, but I've got a bunch of previews.
Supreme Court today permitted the Trump regime to revoke temporary legal protections granted to over 500,000 immigrants under the Biden administration, exposing them to risk of deportation.
We're doing immigration actions all throughout the country. We're not saying we're going to favor one area over another. We're all over the country, in every neighborhood, in every city. And you're going to see an expansion of that. Like I just said, we're going to increase the teams greatly. So you're going to see more teams on the streets you've never seen before. You're going to see more worksite enforcement than you've ever seen in the history of this nation.
With badges off of Amazon?
So I said, we're going to flood
yeah,
the
I've
zone.
seen them.
If we can't arrest a bad guy in the jail, one agent arrests a bad guy in the jail in the safety and security of the jail, which is safer for the officer, safer for the alien, and safer for the community, okay, you're going to force it in the community to find them. If we can't find them in the community, we're going to find them on the work site. So we're going to flood the zone, and sanctuary cities will get exactly what they don't want. More agents in the neighborhoods, more worksite enforcement, because we want to get the bad guy. If you want to make it difficult for us, we'll do it. It'll take more time, it's less efficient, but we're not going to stop until we find that guy.
The court's brief order granted an emergency request from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, effectively halting a program that allowed 532,000 individuals from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to live and work in the U.S. on a temporary basis. The order, which lacked an explanation, noted that Justices Ketanji Brown Jackson and Sonia Sotomayor dissented. In her dissent, Jackson criticized the court for failing to consider the profound impact of stripping away legal protections for such a large group of people while their cases remain unresolved. She argued that the decision would inflict devastating consequences on hundreds of thousands of lives. Though the ruling ends the Biden-era protections, affected individuals may still explore alternative options to remain in the U.S., such as applying for asylum. Legal advocates have said that thousands have already started that process. But as we know, the cruelty of the Trump regime has made this process more difficult and unlikely than ever before, despite international law on asylum. The administration's action is being challenged in court, followed by a ruling by U.S. District Judge Indira Talwani in Massachusetts. Talwani had barred the administration from terminating legal status en masse without first making individual determinations for each case. That ruling is now on hold as litigation moves forward. The Supreme Court has effectively given the Trump administration the green light to create chaos, not just for individuals, but for their families, workplaces, and communities. The case is part of a broader pattern, and the Trump administration has repeatedly clashed with lower court rulings that have blocked its policies, particularly as Trump has sought to expand presidential authority without legislative approval. Meanwhile, the State Department is pushing forward a plan to establish an Office of Remigration as part of a sweeping restructuring of the U.S. diplomatic service aimed at aligning with Trump's hardline immigration agenda. Under the proposal, the Bureau of Population, Refugees and Migration, PRM, which previously supported resettlement and managed refugee inflows, would be transformed into a unit focused on facilitating the deportation of migrants from the United States. According to a State Department document, the new office would take on repatriation tracking, assist with voluntary return programs, and collaborate with the Department of Homeland Security and law enforcement to advance Trump's immigration policies. The document emphasized a shift toward helping return undocumented immigrants to their home countries or original legal status. The overhaul is part of a broader reorganization led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, intended to make the department more agile and better positioned to protect American interests globally. The plan submitted to Congress this week calls for consolidating or eliminating over 300 offices and bureaus within the department, which would result in the dismissal of more than 3,400 staff members. The consular and law enforcement staff would be largely exempt. This restructuring follows additional moves to restrict immigration, including an order for U.S. embassies to halt student visa appointments while expanding social media vetting for applicants. Stephen Miller, Trump's top advisor, known for his far-right immigration stance, has been a driving force behind the effort. Miller has long targeted PRM for its support of refugee resettlement and partnerships with organizations seen as pro-migration. The term remigration, now a favorite of far-right movements worldwide, has gained traction in US political discourse. European groups like Alternative für Deutschland have used it to push for mass deportations, and Trump himself has echoed the language, pledging last September to end the migrant invasion of America and return Kamala's illegal migrants to their home countries. If only he was returning people to their home countries. Many people are being deported to high-security prisons and concentration camps in countries that they have never even been to.
There is no sanctuary for illegal aliens in this country. You can call it a sanctuary jurisdiction all you want. It's a bunch of crap. We all know it. Sanctuary jurisdiction says, well, we want to protect the immigrant community. We want them, the victims, the witnesses of crime, to be able to come to police, report a crime without fear that will work my life. That is a bunch of garbage. But as long as you're not convicted of a serious crime, you're free. No looking for you. Games change. We got the greatest president in history of the station sitting in the Oval Office who's going to force immigration law and keep us promised to American people to make this country safe again.
While some within PRM had feared the Bureau's complete shutdown after Trump's elections, Marco Rubio's plan instead proposes transferring staff from PRM's Office of Western Hemisphere Affairs and Office of International Migration to the new Office of Remigration, signaling a dramatic shift in U.S. immigration policy. Stephen Miller said on Fox News earlier this week that the administration was setting a goal of 3,000 arrests by ICE each day, and the number could go higher. President Trump is going to keep pushing to get that number up higher each and every single day, said Miller. 3,000 arrests per day would mark a huge increase in daily arrests from current figures. Between January 20th and May 19th, the agency arrested 78,155 people, which translates to an average of 656 arrests per day. This comes as the Supreme Court earlier this month allowed the administration to revoke temporary protected status for a group of almost 350,000 Venezuelans. The Department of Homeland Security is putting more than 500 sanctuary jurisdictions across the country on notice that the Trump administration views them as obstructing immigration enforcement as it attempts to increase pressure on communities it believes are standing in the way of the president's mass deportations agenda. The department yesterday published a list of the jurisdictions and said each one will receive formal notification that the government has deemed them non-compliant and if they believe to be in violation of any federal criminal statutes. The Trump regime has repeatedly targeted communities, states, and jurisdictions that it claims aren't doing enough to help immigration and customs enforcement as it seeks to make good on Donald Trump's campaign promises to remove millions of people from the country.
I mean, free speech is legal, but there's a limit to that too.
I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with Midas Touch.
Love this video? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram.
Don't boss
Midas
me.
Touch, and help us blow past 1 million followers.
Yeah.
Desk or use your phone, your head protrudes.
People are not, well, we all are going to die.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
You just watched Iowa's Republican Senator Joni Ernst go full Lord Farquaad at a town hall in Butler County after an audience member yelled people will die because of Donald Trump's Medicaid cuts. And that person is not wrong. If she votes for the Senate version of Donald Trump's so-called big beautiful bill, poor people in her state could lose healthcare and die as a result. And given how she's up for re-election in 2026, you would think that she'd at least pretend to care about the lives of her constituents, but she's not even bothering to do that. In fact, it gets worse because she had the audacity to joke about her comments in an Instagram video after receiving backlash. And after watching this response, I'm convinced that this woman is an actual sociopath.
Hello, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize for a statement I made yesterday at
That looks like shit on there.
See, I was in the process of answering a question that had been asked by an audience member
I'm gonna
when
post the
a
picture
woman
tomorrow.
who was extremely distraught screamed out from the back corner of the auditorium,
And I'm gonna go take a
"People are
shower."
going to die." And I made an incorrect assumption that everyone in the auditorium understood